What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. Good to see everybody out there. A little bit of an early start, trying to get this thing slid earlier into the afternoon, as we talked about at the beginning of the year. That's always been the goal, to not have this press right up against lock for no good reason. We'll see what we can do, but a 2:45 start. I'm sure we'll have people finishing up with Gundacker if he was live already. I'm sure we'll have people trickling in throughout the afternoon as we get going. But I figured on a nice, easy Monday with no basketball, no hockey slates going on, 9-game baseball slate to talk through, might as well get on and just start talking about it. It's a really interesting one. Hopefully you guys had good weekends. Cujo's here. Hopefully your Monday's going well too, pal. Good to see you. But a really interesting looking slate. We've got two minor league parks in play. We've got Coors Field in play. We've got multiple spots with some threat from weather. We've got several good pitchers. We've got some very gettable pitchers. A couple really, really meaty totals. Weather's warming up around the country, but there's also, again, crazy hectic weather going on. Hopefully everybody stayed safe over the weekend with storms in the Midwest and everything. But a lot to talk through today. Really interesting looking slate. Couple spots I really like. Sliding over to the pitching board, you can see kind of stark top versus middle and bottom, but it sets up nicely. I think it's very appropriately priced with a lot of these guys, the Pepios, the Sorianos, Kramers of the world in the middle, less so Dean Kramer. But Bailey Ober, Brandon Pfaadt, there's some usable options through there. Got some really interesting names up at the top of the board. Got some shaky guys like Robbie Ray, who we never love, especially against Kansas City. We'll get into the pitcher by pitcher and then the game by game. Just kind of vamping here for a minute as people start coming in. Cujo's day's going well. It's good to hear, buddy. Just updated the Vegas board. As you can see, again, a couple really big totals toward the end of the night. We've got the Phillies in Coors Field pulling a 6+. But we've also got 2 5+s in Oakland and in the Dodgers, with competitive marks on the other side too. The Diamondbacks definitely look good to me. Seeing a lot of power upside against Landon Knack again. The Angels in the mid-4s, same kind of thing. They're going up against JT Ginn. Not sure how to say that one. They look pretty solid. Still lacking a Mike Trout. Kind of hurts that lineup in general. There's some usable pieces, and they're not that expensive with a mid-4s total. This total is competitive at least with everybody up in this territory. Same thing with the Diamondbacks down there. It's just how much these two and that one kind of stand out. You've also got the Rays lurking here up at the top of the board. That game is the other one in the minor league park. It's that one, and it's the Athletics game. We've seen this Tampa Bay Park Steinbrenner Field play up pretty strong for offense already. The Rays, kind of hit and miss type squad, but when they're on, and it's definitely a usable offense. They're looking pretty solid. They're going up against Colton Gordon in his second major league start. First one didn't go all that well. 3 earned runs on 7 hits over 4 1/3. Not a disaster, but not great. Gave up a homer. The Astros are going to be drawn down against Ryan Pepio, usable starter there, but it's an Astros team that there's still enough quality in that lineup. Solid totals on both sides. Ballpark working against the pitcher. Not a day where I love Pepio, but he was pretty solid in his last outing. He hasn't really been bad outside of one start. He's had some effective outings, and he is a talented pitcher. Cleveland at Minnesota. This one's got some weather. Roth has it as orange. Seems like there's a lot of rain in the area. Seems like there's a window to start. We won't be sure about a finish. If they delay, I think that's one of those ones where a delay is worse. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. Outside of that, I think the Twins are kind of interesting against Logan Allen, the lefty. He can be kind of hit and miss himself. 4.03 implied total, not exactly the biggest, but there's some interesting power bats on that Twins team, and we can definitely at least consider some one-offs, if nothing else. Still missing Buxton and Correa, obviously a hit to the Twins' upside, but they've also just been rolling. On the Guardians side, they're going to be facing Bailey Ober, definitely a usable starter, low total on their side, 3.55 implied total for Cleveland. The Mariners against the White Sox, another game with some weather in the area. This one actually seems fine. It's just on here because it's apparently cold with wind blowing across the field, not in or out per Mr. Roth over at RG. So definitely helps the pitching upside, I would say, as far as those hitting conditions go. And love Luis Castillo going for the Mariners against the White Sox. On the mound for the White Sox, it's Davis Martin, who was excellent in his last outing. His best start in the last 3. Actually had a very good game against the Athletics as well back on the 27th. But has also been very hit and miss, kind of a soft tosser, more location-based pitcher than anything else. So super gettable with that Mariners team, but also could find some quality there. 4.67 total, I think, draws us more to Mariners bats, though. The Orioles and the Brewers, a 9-run total, looks pretty healthy. 4.5, pretty even up on both sides of that one. It's Quinn Priester and it's Keter Montero, who is going to be pitching in bulk relief now behind Sean Gunther, who's going to open, but probably just an inning. Don't think we're considering any of that as far as pitching goes. Definitely want to consider some bats in that game on either side of that one. I'm sorry, Keter Montero's pitcher for the Tigers. That's Dean Kramer. I misspoke there. Sorry. Lost track of which game I was talking about. It's Quinn Priester on the mound for the Brewers, and it's Dean Kramer on the mound for the Orioles. Just as gettable as the Keter Montero-Sean Gunther combination. The Tigers is Keter Montero with Sean Gunther opening, and then Sonny Gray on the mound for the Cardinals. The Tigers are pulling some pretty juicy projections against Sonny Gray, who I still have enough lingering respect for. He was very good 2 starts ago. He was a disaster in the bookend starts around that one. Has been more hit and miss this season than his excellent year last year. But he's a veteran with a very long track record of being a top-end starter. It's just that Tigers team has gotten good in a hurry, and there's some really interesting bats. 3.62 implied total, not exactly keeping them down on the projections board. 4.46 implied total for the Cardinals bats puts them in play, despite not really loving that lineup. Just gettable pitching in Keter Montero, Sean Gunther. Phillies at the Rockies. This one we're just considering some of the Phillies bats. I don't think we're considering the Rockies bats all that much because Christopher Sanchez is on the mound for the Phils. Not an ideal spot to be throwing him, but he is terrific, and it's a great target. So I'm just going to kind of ignore the ballpark, ignore the fact that the Rockies against a very high-quality pitcher are pulling a 4+ implied total, and just target it. Against a lot of other guys, they would probably be mid-4s plus. I think you can play Christopher Sanchez. He's gotten 6 in each of the last 2 out of that after that brief injury flare-up. 2 earned runs in the last one, struck out 8 against St. Louis. Faced the Rays, 1 hitter over 6 innings, no runs, 5 strikeouts, and 3 walks. No concerns really about Christopher Sanchez outside of the ballpark. And it's Kyle Freeland on the mound for the Rockies. The Royals and the Giants, 7-run total. This ballpark definitely plays on the side of pitching. Chris Bubich is on the mound for the Royals. He's been pretty terrific basically all season. And then it's Robbie Ray on the mound for San Francisco, who we're always going to draw a little power upside against. He hasn't given up a home run in 4 straight games now. The walks have still been pretty high, though. The strikeouts definitely there. Gettable spot, but Kansas City, pretty good team to throw at a pitcher like Robbie Ray, who can be very shaky and can slip for power, and that's when he gets destroyed. So it's an interesting spot on at least 2 sides of that one. Jose Soriano on the mound for the Angels going up against the Athletics, who are pulling a 5+ implied total against. He is capable of being very, very good. He's also very good at checking power most of the time. He's only given up 3 home runs in his 9 starts this season. It's a really interesting spot. Ballpark will help, presumably, a little bit with the power upside. Vegas obviously likes the run scoring upside. There are some major, major home run bats in that Athletics lineup. But like we've talked about a few times with that team, if I'm pulling the home run at least down a little bit, I think there's a lane through which Jose Soriano could actually look pretty decent here. 4.43 implied total for the Angels going up against JT Ginn. Again, that's a spot that I think we can definitely target for some upside, and hopefully they get through a little bit lower owned than some of the competition. And then ending the night with what looks like a bloodbath between the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. Should be a really fun one. Brandon Pfaadt on the mound for the Diamondbacks. That's where the quality is if you're looking for late night pitching. He is talented, but he's going up against a really good Dodgers team. We did just see Yusei Kikuchi last night succeed against these Dodgers in a big way. You can get them. Brandon Pfaadt can be very, very good, but you're kind of playing with fire in that spot. And then Landon Knack, I think, is just a target for some of those Diamondbacks bats. A couple of them, the obvious guys, are going to be very highly owned, but it really tapered off, at least the ownership I looked at, as soon as you get outside of like the top 2 bats. So it looks really, really interesting. Home run pick of the day is coming from the Diamondbacks. We'll get to who it is. It's also on the website. The website is rotoscouts.com. For those who don't know, hit the like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel. Andy's here. Good afternoon, buddy. Good to see you. Quiet in chat so far. A few people here hanging out over the first few minutes. I'm sure we'll pile some more in. But for anybody who's not familiar, follow at rotoscouts over on Twitter and check out rotoscouts.com. It's the website. Projections for baseball, home run model, individual numbers for every single player, top stacks, power index, which is like a team-based where the home runs, where the extra base hits might be kind of a tool. All of that, plus NBA projections, plus NHL projections through the rest of the playoffs. Under $1 a day to access all of it. No per sport fees. Joker's here. He's excited about it. So check that out. Let's get into some pitching. Greg Van Cohen, what's going on, buddy? Craig likes the earlier start. Yeah, I mean, this was the goal originally, and then Gunn kind of landed his show at 2. I'm typically not ready to go at like noon, so it's just kind of fallen back into the afternoon, but I want to push it the other direction. If I could do like a morning or an afternoon one, I might start doing that a little bit more. We'll see. But I want to get it out of that like window right before lock, that like 2 hours, 2.5 hours right before lock. It's just better to be here, building lineups, answering questions in Discord, et cetera, et cetera. Link to the Discord's in the description for this video, by the way. Discord's always free. You can hop on in there, join the community, hang out, ask questions. I drop a lot of stuff in there. If I'm putting extra stuff up on the site, I'll let you know through there. So anyway, Christopher Sanchez, top of the board, 9,900, 8,000 on DraftKings, looks super, super usable. I would imagine he's going to be pretty popular. Come on, man. And the team that I share with Lou and Mike Brown, we just got offered Ben Rice for Devin Williams trade that we're definitely not going to accept. What an awful offer. Anyway, Chris Sanchez, again, the only thing working against him there is that ballpark. Obviously, it's threatening with Colorado. This one also does have some weather in the area. Roth is calling it a non-issue, but he does mention there's rain in the area. Winds are blowing in, but it's Coors Field, so that matters a little bit less. As always with Coors, we're not necessarily just looking at it as it's a home run park, because it's just that gigantic outfield that also helps play up hitting. So winds, I care a little bit less about it in a ballpark like that. Don't really care about it at all out in San Francisco. The other game with a lot of weather in it is that Detroit at St. Louis game. Roth's take is that it's going to get wet late, so probably a pretty decent shot at a shortened game. He's saying like 5th inning, 7th inning, somewhere in that territory. And it's going to get really, really rainy in a hurry. So that one is one to watch. Obviously, that would diminish the quality of any Detroit bats. It would diminish the quality of Sonny Gray, who ranks 2nd on the board. Again, that's a both-sided situation. I'm seeing the Tigers with some upside. I really do like that lineup. There's some very high-quality bats in it. Very playable for DFS purposes, but Sonny Gray, capable of being excellent still. High-priced, 9,000 to attack that Tigers lineup, especially with the threat of weather. That could start to throw some monkey wrenches into the Sonny Gray play. So something to keep an eye on for sure with the weather forecast there as we move forward over the next couple of hours. Luis Castillo looks phenomenal on FanDuel at 8,700 against the worst team in baseball. That White Sox lineup, a couple pesky hitters in it, sure, like we've talked about, but Castillo is more than capable of breezing through that team on the right day. 95 on DraftKings, easily playable, easily a SP1 option, probably going to get fairly highly utilized on that site. I have no issues with, you can afford it, combining $9,500 Castillo and Christopher Sanchez up at the top as a double pay up. You've got reasonable combinations down board. Like I said, if you choose to consider Jose Soriano as an option at 7,300, that's very playable. He's easily good enough to go 7 fairly clean innings, limit home runs, find a few Ks. At that price, combined with 8,000 for Sanchez at the top of the board, Sonny Gray at 9, Luis Castillo at 95, any one of those pairings, pretty powerful. Not a lot of downside in that, given the price on Soriano. You can see where FanDuel's got him priced at 9,300. It's a big difference. Chris Bubich, not inappropriate at 10.5, 97 on DraftKings for that matchup. Same thing with Robbie Ray. I have no issues with Ray at the price. Between the two, I probably trust Bubich a little bit more And I like the matchup better for Bubic going up against San Francisco's lineup than I do for Robbie Ray going up against that low strikeouts, underperforming but still very talented Kansas City lineup. Not that San Francisco's bad, but I think I would rather target them, find some Ks with Bubic. Ober, again, we've got threat of weather in that game, but I do think he's talented enough to get through Cleveland. 8,200 is not a bad DraftKings price. 94 does feel a little high on the FanDuel side, especially if we get clipped by some rain. Brendan Pfaadt is difficult to trust at 9,000 against the Dodgers. 87 on DraftKings against the Dodgers. Feels like there are better spots on the board. He'll probably be low owned in that spot, though. He can succeed. It's just his probability of success doesn't really compare with a lot of other guys on the board. Pepio, I think you'd rather have against Houston than Pfaadt against the Dodgers, even though Pfaadt's slightly higher projected. 8,400, 7,800, it kind of explains itself given the price and the opponents. Again, Soriano, on FanDuel, it's more challenging. At 9,300, I don't love it. I'd still probably rather have him against Oakland, even in that park, than Pfaadt against the Dodgers for 9. But I'd probably take Bailey Ober if we took the rain out of the equation for 94. I would certainly take any one of these guys. Robbie Ray would be a question mark at 10 too. I'd probably rather have Soriano at 93. That would be where I would find a challenge between those two. But 7,300 for Soriano, spectacular on DraftKings. Dean Kramer, not really. Maybe some mix and match shares because Milwaukee is just kind of mid. Not a high price at 7,000, but not a ton of upside in Dean Kramer. And again, mid-4s totals on both sides of that game. Colton Gordon, kind of a no with Tampa Bay drawing a monster total against nearly 5 runs and that ballpark playing against them, which is part of the reason why Tampa is so highly projected. Landon Knack, I'm just looking at the Diamondbacks bats on the other side of that one. JT Ginn, kind of the same thing against the Angels, but maybe gettable for some Ks. 6,700, he's very affordable on the DraftKings slate. Colton Gordon is affordable on DK at 6,000. I question the upside. I question the true ceiling of what that actually is going to look like, though, against that team. Allen is challenging against the Twins, again, in a weather-shortened, potentially, game. Gator Montero acting as a bulk reliever in a game with a lot of weather coming in it. It could end up being 3 mediocre innings, and he's just not good. So you don't want to go there at 58. Quinn Priester, pretty hard no. Given the quality against Baltimore, I don't love it. Davis Martin's the interesting one at 78-72. Going up against Seattle, I think there's enough that 6 clean innings, a few strikeouts, not completely crazy, but obviously doesn't project out well. He's a pitcher who's rarely going to project out well. But if you gave him a bonus inning and the quality start and the win on top of it, if they manage a win against Castillo, then you compound it a little bit for a cheap price. Kyle Freeland's a hard no against Philly. Ray's lineup just landed. Nice timing. A little bit different than what's in there. It's going to drive me crazy for the next 2 hours. The little dog cat water fountain out in the kitchen needs to be refilled so I can hear it trickling. This has happened before on shows. It always drives me nuts. Just sounds like somebody's peeing in the other room. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel as we get started with the game by game. So Colton Gordon, not great in the first one. Was pretty solid outing via Stuff Plus. If you're looking for something to grasp on. 3 earned runs on 7 hits over 4 1/3 against Kansas City. Faced 22 hitters. 7 hits, a home run, struck out 3, walked 2. Minor league numbers better than that. Quality lefty, but the Rays are really stacking up a bunch of righties against. Outside of Brandon Lau, Cameron Misner down the lineup. I don't really love the opponent at 4.89, even for the discounted price at 6,000, 6,700. If they get 5 quality innings out of the kid, I think he's gone. I really don't see him going out there chasing a quality start in a 6th inning. I don't really see much upside here. So even at price, I think we could just do better. And Vegas kind of agrees with that, with the Rays at a 4.89 implied total. Pepio is a different story. The Astros, not a big strikeout team, even with some guys in the lineup that could potentially be higher strikeout targets going forward. It still averages down to 18.8, given this projected version of the lineup. Last year, the same collection of hitters at 20.1%. We do have some small samples lingering in here, but it's not a super gettable lineup for K's. Pepio comes in with a 21.2% strikeout rate, 3.93 ERA with a 4.15 xFIP. He's been okay, but he hasn't been peak Pepio, to put some alliteration into it. Last year, 3.60 ERA with a 4.05 xFIP, 26.3% strikeouts was much better. 12.9% swinging versus 11.1 so far this year. The CSW is way down. Stuff Plus is still very good, 8 and change points above average, but it's down by about 8 and change points as well. Giving up a lot of premium contact and power. That's been a little bit of a hiccup in the past couple seasons as well. This is a very small sample, but it's been a hiccup for him in the majors so far. The Astros do have power. They're not a monster power hitting team, but this is a good ballpark for Isaac Paredes. As far as that left field corner, this is where he used to play. So we know there's upside there, a little bit of threat for power there if he gets into one. Christian Walker's obviously a big power bat. Caratini can get into one. There are some power bats in this lineup to worry about. So the downside for Pepio could come through. So far this year, 4.25% home run rate. So I don't love it, but I think he's playable at 78 and 84 on FanDuel. There is a little bit of a ceiling there. There is the upside for 6 innings. He's gone 6 in each of the last 2. He's gone 6 in 5 of the last 6 starts. Just 4 1/3, but gave up only 2 earned runs against the Yanks. Struck out 1, walked 2. That was the short start. That was 3 back. Last time out, 3 earned runs, struck out 7 against Toronto at Toronto. 7 strikeouts against that team is a decent accomplishment. Gave up a homer, but was otherwise okay. Phillies, 1 earned run on 2 hits. Only struck out 3 and walked 2, but not a bad outing. You could have that kind of day against Houston. If you're looking at Astros, Jeremy Pena at the top of the board, 41,300, still fairly priced on both sites. It's had a decent start, 299, 354, 448, but it looks like we're already trending down somewhat in the slash line. The xWOBA is holding strong at 344, but I believe that was a little bit higher recently. 41.6% hard hits, 7.4% barrels. It's all just part of normalizing back toward the guy that Jeremy Pena just is. 266, 308, 394, dead at league average for run creation, 15 homers, 20 steals. There's nothing wrong with that as an affordable shortstop option if you're stacking this team. But he's not somebody to really go out of your way for. Ballpark helps everybody in this one, though. Jose Altuve, it hasn't been pretty. Still hanging in the lineups as far as my dynasty team goes. Still a priority in Astros stacks if you're going there. Unfortunately, the price is going down, but the production's been pretty bad. 17% worse than average creating runs so far, 241, 296, 345. The xWOBA, the sub 300 on base, really, really concerning. The slippage in barrel rate, not only this year, but last year, year over year, from 8.3 to 6.5 in full samples. Still putting bat on ball, but not drawing as many walks as he was a couple years ago either. There's a lot of slippage around the edges here for Jose Altuve. I'm no longer sure that this comes roaring back at any point. I do think you go there. He's slotted in at second base for a cheap price on both sides. Still hits at the top of the lineup most days. Still hits ahead of crucial hitters like Isaac Paredes and Christian Walker in this stack. So you definitely continue to include him, but he is more replaceable with the likes of Caratini, Yainer Diaz, even a Jake Myers down lineup. There are alternate options. Paredes at 37, not a bad price. He's hit 7 home runs so far this year, 336 xWOBA. He gets on base at a very aggressive clip at 372. Hitting ahead of Christian Walker should be to his benefit if Walker comes around at any point this year. 207, 282, 355, a 310 xWOBA, only 5 home runs. Uncharacteristic numbers so far for Walker, but the premium contact is not far off the mark. This is basically, as far as the quality of contact goes, the same dude. It's just the frequency of contact has gone down a little bit. The strikeouts have gone up. The walks have come down. There's a lot of bad, but 10.51 going up against this pitcher in this ballpark, there's benefit there. 3,400, 3,000, 34 is a very cheap price for Christian Walker on DraftKings. This 4-man, God damn it, 3,800 apiece with the Astros pulling a mid-4 total against Pepio. If you include either of the catchers, and Yainer Diaz is the better player between those two guys, He's 3,000. That brings you to 3,640 for the 5-man. If you were to use Caratini, who is honestly just as playable there, 3,600 right on the nose. That was the Reds lineup. Irrelevant. I was hoping it would be the Astros. So there's a lot of playability through this Astros lineup. Caratini puts good bat on ball. We're carrying a 10.3% barrel rate right now. Last couple seasons, it's been just 5%, but the hard hits are there. 43.1, 44.7. Not a monster bat, but when he gets regular opportunities, there is power there. There is quality of contact. 85 plate appearances, hit 2 home runs. 342 XWOBA. His career runs 20% better than average. Jainer Diaz at 3,000, 2,700. It continues to be a bargain. The on base is still really ugly. The average has come up somewhat. He's at 229, 253, 376. A 328 XWOB is looking healthier underneath. 10.2% barrels. We're getting toward better, more like our expected production out of Jainer Diaz. But that average needs to go way up. The on base critically needs to go way, way up as time goes on. Myers is a mix and match outfielder, gets on base, decent hit tool, a little bit of speed, can drive the ball a little bit from time to time. You can see the premium contact numbers the last couple of years. That's where he'll normalize to. But fairly low strikeout, the ability to get on base. There's value there. It's just hitting ahead of DeZenzo and Mauricio Dubon. If that's who you get at the bottom of the lineup, doesn't exactly help him for correlated scoring. I'd rather honestly have Myers hitting like 9th so I could wrap him back around to the top. On the Rays side with the confirmed lineup, don't love Jose Caballero in the second spot, but he's got a lot of positional flexibility for at least a fair price. He gets on base. He steals bases. He's a decent enough table setter ahead of Christopher Morel, Junior Caminero, Brandon Lau, bats that I do actually like on this team. Honestly, you probably want to go either one of these guys hitting second, probably Caminero against the lefty, move Morel down. You could just easily have gone Morel 4, Caballero 3, and Caminero 2, I think would have been the better configuration there. It's kind of a funky setup. It shouldn't have that much impact overall, but I don't love Caballero in the 2 spot. Not enough pop in that bat, really. He's more a table setter. Yandy Diaz is a great table setter with power. 6 home runs, just a 293 on base so far this year, but a 343 xWOBA and monster on base numbers the last few years. Monster run creation numbers, extremely low strikeout, typically higher walk than the 6.4% that he's put up so far this year. There's a little bit of trade-off probably going on in the 15s, the 15% strikeout rates versus where the walk rate is. But we're not far off the mark with Yandy despite some underperformance over the start of the season. 8% barrels right around where it was last year. Hard hits are actually up. Strikeouts are down. There's a lot of quality there, and that price, it does not reflect the quality of this player over the last 3 seasons. 4,300, 2,900, way too cheap in this ballpark against this pitcher. Morel at 37.26. We're just home run hunting with Chris Morel. 9.48 in the model, not too far off the magic number. He's hit 3 on the season. Just a 136 ISO. The results have been disappointing, but the premium contact pretty much there. 17.7% barrel rate, 43.5% hard hits. I'd like more hard hits. What Morel is struggling with is the 39% strikeout rate that he's pushing. Capable of drawing a walk. Typically that strikeout rate is between mid-20s and 30. It's not usually in the upper 30s. That's been a bit of a problem, but he's got that dynamite swing. He's a member of that little swing club that we've talked about. Not swing club like you're thinking, like the quality of the speed of his swing. What he does in his own time, I couldn't tell you. Caminero, excellent bat, 9% barrels, 51.1% hard hits, 8 home runs on the board, a 324 xWOBA with a 181 ISO, 8 points below average for run creation. Notably, everybody in this Rays lineup, except for Jose Caballero, has a below average WRC plus right now. Just something to keep an eye on. They've been kind of up and down. But Caminero's a great bat. 4,200, 2,900, fits in very, very easily at third base on either site. Playable as a one-off. That's not a bad option to use in a game where they're drawing a high total and he's in a great run creation position with power upside against this pitcher. So I like the upside for Caminero. Brendan Lau, typically against lefties, we struggle a little bit, but we'll see what the quality of this lefty looks like. And if he gets chased early, we're going to want some Brendan Lau. So I'll take a diminished plate appearance if I can get 3 upside plate appearances later. 9.54 in the home run model, also not nothing. He's got 7 on the season, 352 xWOBA, 11% barrels, 44.7% hard hits. Then we get into Danny Jansen, Curtis Mead, Taylor Walls, Cameron Misner against the lefty. These are mix and match quality pieces at best. The only guy getting on base at a 300-plus clip over a fair amount of plate appearances is Danny Jansen. He is a playable catcher, but just 179, 322, 263 to start his year, just a .084 ISO. Hasn't really been putting quality bat on ball. 2 home runs, but they're kind of outlier home runs given the 4.2% barrels, 38% hard hits. Been kind of mediocre, but he's drawing walks, 15.7% walk rate so far. So a little bit of misfortune coming through in terms of where those batted balls have gone, and probably the degree to which he's put good bat on them. Curtis Mead is at least dead min price on DraftKings. He plays 3 positions for just 22 on FanDuel. There's been minor league quality there for sure. We haven't seen much in the show so far. But if you just want a dice roll against a minor league caliber pitcher, Curtis Mead is very, very cheap to help average down pricing. If you went like, say 1, 3, 4, 5, and then I got to put Curtis Mead at first. Nope, you can't do that, actually. So you'd skip Brendan Lau in that setup. In which case, that makes it bad. The decision point would then be Caballero or Danny Jansen, and I'd probably take the cheaper option and just fill catcher there and go for the very discounted version of this. And then it's Yandy, Chris Morel, Caminero, Danny Jansen, and Curtis Mead. And I'm spending $3,400 a piece, $3,340 for the 5-man. That's a very inexpensive and less common, I would say, way to build a 5-man out of this team. And Jansen's capable enough. We've seen enough from him over the years. And Curtis Mead, again, not a complete slouch. Last year in AAA, 410 plate appearances, 288, 359, 481 was 15 points better than average for run creation via WRC+. Struck out just 15.6%, walked 7.1, 192 ISO, 13 homers, and 11 steals. Again, in only 410 plate appearances. 292 plate appearances in 2023 in mostly AAA, 9 homers, 4 steals, again in a shortened season. Double-digit walks, 16.8% strikeouts. Excellent slash line. He's got good numbers throughout the minors. It's not like he's missed his expiration date as a prospect either. He's still only 24 and a half. This is the time that he needs to make things happen. But the fact that he comes in at min price against this pitcher, I'm kind of interested. I think the issue becomes you want him at second base. So then it's the him versus Lau. If you get into, as I ran into, we've got the first, third thing going on with first, third, and third there, and then him at first or second. So a little bit of back and forth with the positions, but nothing you can't overcome. Walls and Misner, I'm less interested in down bottom. Walls gives you a little bit of speed. Misner's been okay, but I don't love him hitting ninth lefty here to start the game. Rays bats. Pepio. Astros bats. Just because Pepio's pretty cheap. That's more of a tie, and I don't really trust him. But I'm going to slide him in there at the top. Given the underperformers, given the upside, I don't mind it. No lineups here. So again, this game definitely threatened by rain. Something to keep an eye on. This is the most threatened game, it seems like. It does feel like we'll probably get this just as we run toward lock. We'll probably know what happens with this game just because of how much rain is apparently in the area. But I'm no weatherman. Follow the weatherman as usual. The Guardians at a 3.55 implied total against Bailey Ober. Ober carrying a 19% strikeout rate with a 3.72 ERA, but the xFIP a little bit concerningly in the mid fours. 12.7% swinging strike rate is fantastic. The CSW doesn't really reflect the quality of that swinging strike rate. He's not like he's walking anybody, but he's not getting a lot of called strikes in the mix with the swinging strikes. 14.2% swinging last year with only a 29.4% CSW. It's kind of the same thing. So that's just a is who he is kind of spot. But you can see that resulted in 26.9% strikeouts last year. He's lost 7% of strikeout rate in these 9 starts. That's 48 and a third. It's not a huge sample, but it's at least something worth monitoring. He's always going to be a little bit vulnerable. There are typically a fair amount of hits against, and then it comes down to getting through that. You can see there's premium contact, 41.4% hard hits is over the threshold, so is 90.4 miles an hour of exit velo on a 20.6 degree average launch. He's only allowed a 7% barrel rate, just under 3% home runs. Probably a little bit of fortune on his side in that mix. Last season, it was similar. Barrels were slightly higher. Hard hits were lower, so was exit velo, but home runs, you can see at 3.81%. So if this continues to be that much higher than that, and if this goes back up toward this, that home run mark gets inflated in an awful hurry. So some good fortune on his side through that. Good fortune on his side with the ERA being 3/4 of a run lower than what that xFIP is telling us. Some things to watch with Bailey Ober here. Last time out, 3 earned runs over just 4 2/3 against Baltimore in Baltimore. 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. Struck out 6 against Baltimore in his home park over 5 innings the start before that, but allowed 8 hits. 2 runs, only 1 of them earned. Just walked 1. 1.80 ERA for that game, but the xFIP was 4.21. Same thing the game before and the game before that. The game before that, basically his entire season. I do think he's usable. There are at least some Ks in this Guardians lineup, depending on what they end up rolling out here. Last year, this group of hitters, 22.7%. This year, it's 20%, but you've got a 10 in there on a guy who's only made 10 plate appearances, who struck out just 13% last year, 12% the year before. So it's a little higher maybe given that, but not much. Everybody else at least has a reasonable sample size. So you do have some guys here who have cut strikeouts pretty notably, 31, 32 down to 23, 26. We'll see if that holds. But as we were saying at the beginning of the year, this is a more targetable Guardians team for strikeouts, again, depending on who's in the lineup, than it has been over time. It's just there's also power here. There's one superstar. There's a guy with a phenomenal hit tool and can get on base like crazy. Another guy who's low strikeout, high quality on base option in Carlos Santana. It's not a great target team for Bailey Ober. At 82, it's way more playable on DraftKings than it is at 94 on FanDuel. Not that he's unplayable on FanDuel. You can see where he projects. Again, we did the pitching board already, but he's right here. It's not like he's a bad option, but he probably is realistically the lowest out of the top end of the board. And then you take a dip by 4 points of projection, 2.5 on DraftKings. So there is a little bit of a cut line there. And I do think he's realistically the lowest end option out of that upper tier. Logan Allen at 65.82 against a good Twins team. I think that's fair, given how much winning they do. Just a 4-run total feels a little bit low. There's still, again, no Buxton, no Correa in this lineup. But there are very good options in this version of the projected one. They're extremely cheap on FanDuel if you look at all those sub 3,000 prices. Nobody even, what's 2,800 is the highest price on FanDuel today. On DraftKings, it's 41, and that's for Royce Lewis. They're very, very cheap on both sites. They're going up against a pitcher who has a 3.70 ERA, but a 5+ xFIP, a double-digit, nearly 11% walk rate with a sub 17% strikeout rate, over 41 1/3 in 8 starts this year. He's given up 9.8% barrels in those starts. It's only resulted in 1.63% home runs against. Gotten really lucky. Hard hits are way low. 88.5 miles an hour of exit velo is way low. Last year, in 20 starts on very similar contact with a lower barrel rate, 5.09% home runs. 5.73 ERA, a 4.75 xFIP. Struck out more, walked fewer. I feel like he was better last year. This is a super gettable pitcher. There are some high-quality righty bats. Everybody in this lineup is going to be taking shots at him from the right side. Ryan Jeffers, 268, 345, 409, carrying 342 xWOBA underneath his 142 ISO is pretty reasonable slash line. Suggests there's a little bit more. 7% barrels, 43% hard hits, 9.97 in the home run model today. Love that option as a cheap catcher, especially in the leadoff spot. If you can pay this for a catcher with power upside and get the bump in plate appearances that comes with being in the leadoff spot, that's terrific against this pitcher. Love that upside. Really just need this game to play 9 innings. The thing that sucks is big rallies slow the game down and you run into the rain. Brooks Lee at 3,000, 2,600. Very playable. 250, 292, 393. He's got some work to do to bring that slash line up, but a 321 XWOB was at least around the average, so we should see a little bit of increased performance for run creation for on-base opportunities. He's put good bat on ball over 120 plate appearances, 10+% barrels. Similar performance out of Ty France at 253, 317, 355. This is France just normalized back to who he has been over the last few seasons. We talked about it at the beginning of the year when he was looking really good to start. Hit 3 quick home runs early. 353 xWOBA underlying still indicates that there should be a little bit of, at least back and forth kind of performance where he settles in ultimately is going to come down to the luck aspect of it. But it does suggest that there's upside underneath those numbers. And we've seen the good version of Ty France over time. At 35-28, again, from the right side against this pitcher, I'm in. 7.4 in the home run model is a big day for Ty France. 9.66 on Royce Lewis. He's hit 1 in his 42 plate appearances. He has not made great contact so far. 6.3% barrels, 40.6% hard hits. This guy, 11.2, 11.7% barrels each of the last 2 years. Whenever he's on the field, he's played at a star caliber level. Difficult to strike out. 22% last year, 23%. I call it 23% each of the last two. 16.7 this year in a small sample. I think the numbers all come around as long as he's out there at 4,100, 2,600. Any given slate, monster upside. 9.66 in the home run model to lead the team. Could be higher. Willie Castro, playable piece. 4 position eligibility for 26 on FanDuel's Dynamite. Just 235, 306, 367 this year. 8 points below average for run creation via WRC+. Mediocre contact numbers so far this year. Last year, he hit 12 homers. He stole 14 bags. He was 8 points above average for run creation. He wasn't a bad mix and match option. Similar numbers the year before. 9 homers, 33 stolen bases. A great on base that season. 109 WRC+. That's the typical Willie Castro. Not bad when you get him in the heart of the lineup for a very cheap price, and you can just kind of move him to whatever position you need on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's very much just another outfielder, though. I like him better at second. I like him, at least just the ability, again, to move him around. Given the fact that he's the same price as Royce Lewis, though, at 26, like if I'm deciding on third base, I'm going to Royce Lewis more often than not. And it's probably the same above him with Brooks Lee, who's been a little bit better this year. Has the better spot in the lineup, probably is the better overall hitter. But he's at least a back and forth option with those guys if you build a bunch of twin stacks. Harrison Bader, Jonah Bride, Christian Vasquez down lineup, mix and match guys all. Bader's been good over 134 plate appearances. It's been the good version of him. We've seen this for similar stretches over time, and then he, kind of like Ty France, just kind of fades into the wallpaper a little bit. But 9.2% barrels, 44.8% hard hits so far, 280, 366, 432. He's usable. More just another outfielder on both sides, but not nothing. And then we get to the guy who's really interesting, and so far not available on DraftKings, which sucks. Carson McCusker. You might not have heard of him. Let's see if he got added on DK. Dude is like 6'8", 260 something. Like he's Judge sized. I'm not saying he's Aaron Judge. He's not. He's got tools that could be compared to, but he's nowhere near that kind of quality. But he's got monster power. They did. Deadman Price. Good job, DraftKings. There you go. Min price on both sites. Got a plate appearance yesterday in his debut. Didn't start the game. If he's in the lineup, I love the upside at the minimum. 4.79 in the home run model. That honestly could be higher. Probably needs a little nudge in the back end projection since he's here. Had 10 home runs, I want to say, in the minors this year. Second highest average exit velocity in all of the minor leagues. And he's just a cool story. He was an undrafted player. He's 26, about to turn 27. But he was just not really on the radar for a couple of years there. Last year in Minnesota in mostly double-A, 420 double-A plate appearances, 98 triple-A plate appearances, totaled out to 19 homers, 7 steals, 282, 353, 488 with a 206 ISO, 29% strikeouts, 8.7% walks. This year so far, it was 10 home runs, 299 ISO, 350, 412, 650 with a 174 WRC plus. Again, 29.9% strikeouts. This is his hiccup. 30, 29, 30% strikeout in the minor leagues. Monster on base numbers each of the last few, or in each of those stops, though. So he's got that 3 true outcomes skill set where we can expect true power upside. We can expect some walks. He needs to push the walks at the major league level. That's going to be probably the difference between him being a right-handed light version of like a Kyle Schwarber, Max Muncy type, or him being a Bobby Dahlbeck, Joey Gallo type. It's going to come down to what those strikeouts. Is it 39% strikeouts or is it 29% strikeouts? Is it 8% walks or is it 11% walks? Because the power is very, very real. As a DFS option at the dead min against Logan Allen, you better believe I'm going to have some Carson McCusker in my lineup if he's going to be in their lineup. And then Vasquez is a mix and match catcher. If you're rostering Guardians against Bailey Ober, I think it's doable. 355 implied total, not the best, but if you get the lower end version of Ober or just with the idea of some premium contact allowed, it's not terrible to chase. Jose Ramirez would be your priority at 10.37 in the home run model. He's 57.36, not inappropriately priced. He's just doing Jose Ramirez things out there. You could grab 184 plate appearances from basically any of the last, 5 seasons, and it would look pretty much just like this. 296, 359, 519, a 222 ISO, a 345 xWOBA, creating runs 44% better than average, 9 homers, 12 steals. Oddly, never makes great contact. This is all just fine, but not killer, but just succeeds like crazy. Nothing wrong with that option. Kyle Manzardo at 42, 3,000. If he's in the lineup, 10 home runs on the board in 162 plate appearances, 271 ISO, a 123 WRC plus, 14% barrels, monster premium contact upside, monster power. Strikeouts are going to be very real. Could help Bailey Ober a little bit in that department. But there's major power, 8.69 in the home run model at first base. Positional conflict with Carlos Santana. Santana's very cheap. He's at 4 home runs. He is getting on base at a 330 clip, which is a positive indicator. But the 301 xWOBA, the 0.98 ISO, the 91 WRC plus, the lack of premium contact, all a little bit concerning with strikeouts up a little bit. Not quite showing us the quality that we got last season or in years past. Daniel Schneemann mix and match quality gave it Arias his power upside for sure, but there are a lot of strikeouts there. I expect he continues to trend upward from 26.7 back toward the 32% strikeout rates, 33% that he was at the last couple of years. But he's playable in this lineup given the premium contact upside. 4 home runs in 161 plate appearances, but a substandard xWOBA, very low end results as far as the ISO goes. Bo Naylor's a playable catcher. You're chasing that double-digit barrel rate, the power upside. He's hit 6 homers. Otherwise, pretty bad. 190, 295, 400, 318 xWOBA, but a 210 ISO. You're just, again, home run hunting with Bo Naylor, 6.20 in the model. And then Will Brennan, reasonable outfielder to mix or match your way through. A couple, last year, 8 home runs in 353 plate appearances, 264, 309, 388. Year before, 266, 299, 356. Not as high quality that year. Was below average both seasons for run creation, but last year it was just 98, so 2 points below average via WRC plus. At the dead min there, it's not a terrible option if you're stacking up Guardians. He's no priority, But if you're going to this team, that's a way that you can average down the salary. And then I started on Jose Ramirez, which means I skipped over Steven Kwan, one of the best hit tools in baseball. He's slashing 311, 374, 428. A very solid-looking 349 xWOB. It tells us there's even more under the covers with Steven Kwan. We know that he can turn on the ball and drive it out of the park from time to time. He's hit 4 home runs already this year. Creating runs 34% better than average. And then you guys know I like Nolan Jones. If you've ever been here before, well, we've talked about this team or the Rockies last year, you know I like Nolan Jones despite the continuing struggles. Just knowing that 2020 player is in there somewhere for 27, 25 as a lefty against Bailey Ober, hitting ahead of Jose Ramirez, Kyle Mansardo, behind Steven Kwan. There's just so much opportunity there for a guy who's barreling the ball 11.4% of the time, over 121 plate appearances and whatever the batted ball events look like. 50% hard hits. This looks like this guy from 2 years ago, not this guy from last year. That strikeout rate is way up, but it was high 2 years ago. Again, 29.8 with a 12.4% walk. Looks just like that guy. Yeah, there was some Coors Field benefit. But I mean, 2020 exactly in just 424 plate appearances while slashing 297, 389, 542, a 245 ISO, and a 135 WRC plus. That's not all Coors Field. There's upside in that player. I will continue to believe it's very cheap at 27, 25 if you're going to the Guardians. Again, not a reason necessarily to rush off and roster the Guardians against good pitcher, but he's there. Twins bats, Bailey Ober, Guardians bats. No Logan Allen from me. Muckenack, hopefully that extended rant answered your question there for McCusker. Michael's calling for the Danny Jansen dinger. I like it. That would be a big upside. That would be a big boost to Tampa Stacks if that could happen. Seattle, 4.67 implied total against Davis Martin. So there's some good and there's some bad with Davis Martin. 3.65 ERA, not bad. 4.33 xFIP. Betrays the ERA, but not terribly so. That's a reasonable enough xFIP. If he come in at a 4.5 ERA, he'd be maybe slightly cheaper, but not notably cheaper. Just a 15.7% strikeout rate. Never going to find a ton of swinging strikes. 23.5% CSW. He's more a control pitcher, a spot hitter. Again, as I said the last time out, his prospect pedigree coming up had a lot of traditional scouts calling him like a light Greg Maddux. Like nobody actually compared him to Greg Maddux, but they're saying like that mold of pitcher. You know, Kyle Hendricks would be another guy you could throw into that conversation, but that would be more of an insult to the kid. So it's like either over compliment him or over insult him. I'm sure there's many other pitchers that I'm not conjuring that would fit that mold, but he can be very good. He's never going to be the strikeout option that even a Greg Maddux was. But last time out, he struck out 5 over 6 2/3 against Cincinnati at Cincinnati. Allowed just 1 earned run on 7 hits. It came on a solo home run. It was an excellent start in a terrible hitter's park. Good park for hitting, terrible for the pitcher. You get it. 4 1/3 against Kansas City. Gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits. That was a downside start. Struck out just 2, walked 1. 3 earned runs on 8 hits over 5 innings against Houston the start before that, but was dynamite against the Athletics in the one before that. 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Had a 6-inning, 1-run, 6-hit against Boston, in which he also struck out 6, just walked 1. That was all the way back on April 11th. And a 6-inning good start to start the year. 2 runs, neither of them earned. 4 hits over 23 hitters against the Angels. Struck out just 2 and walked 2. That was all the way back at the beginning of the year. So you've got like 4 good ones in here and then 4 pretty bumpy ones. I think he's playable against the Mariners team that's carrying a 23% strikeout rate. But they are good for run creation. They do have power in the lineup for sure. It's in no way safe to play Davis Martin. I think where you do it, if you're going to do it, is in a few shares across 150 lineups at 7,200 on DraftKings. But he's probably not quite cheap enough. That should probably be more like 68. I know we're quibbling over a few $100, but it's a little bit higher than I would like it to be because there's not a lot of upside. It's just a spot where you're hoping for one of those 6 innings, no runs, 5 strikeouts, and whatever hits and walks come against you, you take it. Luis Castillo on the other side, priority option. 87 on FanDuel is spectacularly cheap. I know that this is a version of Luis Castillo who's only striking out 18.2%. He's got a 3.65 ERA, but a 4.63 xFIP underneath it. He's walking too many at 9.3. This could easily go bust. He has not been good in that extended sample. Last time out, struck out 6, allowed just 1 earned run on 6 hits to the Yankees. That's an encouraging spot when we're targeting the White Sox today. Start before that, he was bad. He gave up 5 earned runs over 5 innings to Toronto, but the start before that one, he faced Texas at Texas and was pretty good. Start before that came against Miami, a comparable team to this one. Went 6, allowed 1 hit, struck out 5, walked 2, no runs. It's really a 6 earned run game, and then 2 starts ago, the 5 earned run game. He allowed 3 in a game against Toronto on April 20th, and every other start, fewer than 3 earned runs. It's been off, but I don't know that we're so far off that we're not going to chase him at this cheap a price against the worst team in baseball. Maybe it's just good memories of this guy, that guy. But even those guys, the xFIP was always a little bit higher than the ERA. It's just we've lost some stuff plus. We've lost some swinging strikes. We've certainly lost some CSW and some actual punch outs. This is a good get right spot. And honestly, at this price, even if we're just talking about 6 plus, a quality start, 4 or 5 strikeouts, keep them off the board, there's enough. There really is. For the added upside that comes with playing him of 7 plus and a monster strikeout day, you just play it. 95 on DraftKings does become more challenging, as we talked about at the beginning of the show. That's a much higher price. There's a lot more competition for him in that. There's a lot bigger of a basement for him to fall into at that price. But he's very usable. It is the White Sox. I think the Mariners' bats are really interesting against Davis Martin, given that upper 4s total, given the power upside that comes with the Cal Raleighs of the world, that apparently once again comes with the Jorge Polanco's of the world. What 126 plate appearances out of him so far this year. Talk about a bounce back. 313, 360, 626, a phenomenal 429 xWOBA underlying, saying that there's even more, or at least that this has been not all good fortune. 15.7% barrels, 52.9% hard hits. I don't know what he is doing right now, but he should keep it up. Last year, 213, 296, 355, over 469 plate appearances. He did hit 16 home runs, 14 the year before in just half a season where he was slash 255, 335, 454. After the dip year over year from that to this in 2024, I wasn't sure we were ever going to see this version of Jorge Polanco again. And this is honestly one of the better 126 plate appearances stretches we've ever seen from him. High priced on DK at 51, I'll say that, but 32 on FanDuel, really honestly not that expensive. And when you can average it down with JP Crawford being too cheap on DK at 37, Julio, despite his underperformance, being too cheap at 47, it just normalizes that price anyway. Crawford definitely is too cheap at those prices. He's getting on at a 376 clip again this year. He's hit 4 home runs. He's stolen 2 bases. He's creating runs 30% better than average. Excellent correlated scoring piece with Polanco's power with Julio Rodriguez. Julio at just 235, 314, 399. Another disappointing start, but an underlying 355 xWOBA. Via WRC Plus, he's creating runs 10% better than average. He is making good contact. It's not where we want his contact. You can see it's down a couple points over the last 2 seasons, but it's still good quality of contact in a vacuum. You take the name off the jersey, and the price is dipped. Given just this, that price shouldn't be that low for who this player is. Cal Raleigh at 54-36 across sites, 15 home runs, competing for the league lead, getting on base at a 369 clip, carrying a 400 xWOBA, creating runs 70% better than average. 23.2% barrels. One of the best power bats in baseball, full stop, against a guy who allows nothing but contact. Love the upside for Cal Raleigh. 8.0 in the home run model honestly might not be high enough. Randy Arozarena at 46.32. 6 home runs on the board, 9 stolen bases. Getting on base at a 380 clip. Creating runs 43% better than average VWRC plus while putting excellent bat on ball. Looking like the star version of Randy Arozarena outside of that low-end batting average that we just don't care about. Rowdy Tellez, in his opportunities, over 108 plate appearances, his results have been pretty bad in the slash line, but if you look at the ISO at 283, the 8 home runs, the 12 points above average WRC plus, with this kind of premium contact, there's at least something you could polish there. And hopefully, bring some of the average, the on base around. But even if it's just a power bat for our purposes, at 29, at 26, against a weak soft tossing righty, fire away. This is a day where Rowdy Tellez will have the opportunity to square the ball up. Leody Taveras, Miles Mastroboni, Ben Williamson, mix and match pieces all down lineup. No priority there. Everybody kind of low end performances over 100 and change plate appearances. If you're going to the White Sox, your priorities are Chase Meadroff in the leadoff role, Luis Robert in the 4 spot, Andrew Vaughn in the 5 spot, and probably Tim Elko in the 8 spot, but you can't play him and Andrew Vaughn in the same lineup, so that's challenging. Elko over 22 plate appearances is a 193, 227, 476, but he's hit 2 home runs, 286 ISO, a 14.3% barrel rate in the teeny tiny sample. Elko is 26 and change. He was a college superstar hero, and then missed some time with injuries over the last, 2 seasons, I want to say? Or maybe that was 2 seasons ago. Yeah, just 23. He made 554 minor league plate appearances, peaking at Double-A. Hit 28 home runs, 295, 347, 527 with a 232 ISO, 35% better than average WRC plus. In 590 plate appearances in Double-A and Triple-A last season, 18 home runs, 289, 346, 439, 119 WRC plus, but just a 150 ISO. Strikeouts peaked up to 29.3%. Never been great at drawing walks. This year, hit 10 home runs in 130 plate appearances in AAA as a 26-year-old. Struck out at a 28.5% rate. Did draw an 11.5% walk and a spectacular slash line in the small sample. So there's at least talent here. There's believable upside for power, but there's probably also going to be a very fair number of strikeouts. Bumps the upside for Luis Castillo a little bit. But given what his ceiling looks like, especially at these prices, Elko would be in my lineups if I'm building a lot of White Sox. It's probably more doable for FanDuel where you're going like, first base, util, outfield, and second base for $2,600 apiece. It's an ugly disconnected 4-man, but those are the 4 priorities in this lineup. Meadroff at 284, 370, 358 has been an on-base machine in the show. Very patient hitter, 15.2% strikeouts, 12% walk, kind of on profile for him. That's who he is. He's stealing bases in the show. He's not going to hit for much power, but he did drive one the other day. He's got a home run on the board, but just 1.5% barrels. You're looking for him to set the table, but there's just not a lot of eaters in this lineup. Miguel Vargas, Josh Palacios, really very skippable. Vargas does have 6 home runs, 114 WRC plus, 319 xWOBA, probably coming down over time, mediocre contact, and just enough track record to know that there's not a ton of upside there. Lubob has at least been stealing bases, 17 steals, 5 home runs on the board, and you just got to ignore everything else. 12.6% barrels, 45.6% hard hits is encouraging. The 333 xWOBA is encouraging. Everything else in the traditional stats is ugly. 13.6% barrels and 48.5% hard hits for Andrew Vaughn with the same 5 home runs, minus the stolen bases, with a worse on base and everything else being identically ugly to what I just said about Lubob. He's less appealing, but he would still be a priority given the contact, given what he ought to be rather than what he is. Rojas, mix and match. Eder Quero, reasonably cheap catcher. 47.1% hard hits, but yet to barrel a ball over 94 plate appearances, 280, 372, 317, but kind of empty. At least you're getting frequency of contact. 14.9% strikeouts. Mike Tauchman gets on base. Over 12 plate appearances, he's been on base in 6 of them so far. Over a larger sample of 350 last year, he was on base at a 357 clip. Hit 7 homers, stole 6 bases, created runs 11% better than average. You can see it's a sustainable trait for Tauchman. That is who he is. 363 on base, over 400 plus plate appearances 2 years ago, but he's never been good enough at anything other than getting on base, which is a major attribute, don't get me wrong, but he's never been good enough to even hold down a full-time job, so he's nothing more than a spare part, and honestly, hitting 9th, not ideal. I'm going to have faith and say Luis Castillo, especially on FanDuel at 87. Mariners bats right there with him, though. And then maybe a few Davis Martin darts at 72 on DraftKings. I don't like it at all at 78 on FanDuel, and I really don't like the White Sox bats. We just highlighted who you would go to if you do. I appreciate that, Michael. I'm not going to say hit the like button for the best breakdown in the business. I'll just say hit the like button if you get a chance. You can form your own opinions. 4.54 total for the Orioles, 4.56 total for the Brewers. Dean Kramer, Quinn Priester, not exactly a pitching duel. 15.7% strikeouts against 15.5. Kramer's been better for walks if you need a tiebreaker. 5.05 xFIP on Priester, 4.64 xFIP on Dean Kramer. Neither of these pitchers are remotely appealing. Kramer at 7,000, again, is kind of mid-board on DraftKings via projection, but I think it's just a day where your upside is essentially the median projections here. That's him, like, getting through. It's really difficult to envision much success. This Brewers lineup striking out at a 19.2% clip so far this year. Several believably low strikeout guys down toward the bottom of the lineup at least kind of helps put balls in play, maybe turn the lineup back over to the better, higher quality players up top. It is a top-heavy lineup if we're talking about actual upside players, stars, and so forth. It's really about the top 5. But this is a team that's at least, that top 5 plus several playable parts down lineup. So I'd much rather stack Brewers against Dean Kramer. And then the Orioles, depending on what lineup they put together, is almost always a 9-man complete lineup. Underperformances be damned. I think you just go there against Quinn Priester. And Vegas agrees. Mid-4s totals on both. See if we got lineups in. We do not. Oh, that White Sox lineup did come in. My bad. All right. It's slightly different. Meadroth leading off. Matt Thaiss is in the lineup, hitting second. He's got a little bit of pop. He's a cheap catcher. Mix and match quality. Vargas hitting third. Lubob, Palacios, Andrew Vaughn. Then Austin Slater is nothing more than just another outfielder. Then Rojas. And then Tim Elko hitting 9th. So Elko, again, kind of interesting from the 9 spot as a wraparound option. It at least connects him better to Chase Meadroth at the top of the lineup in our priority guys. So I actually like that with Elko sliding down the lineup a little bit more. Not that it makes them any more appealing to actually go play, but for the people who were already putting that together, I think it connects better. Jackson Holliday succeeding. 151 pretty decent plate appearances. Creating runs 28% better than average via WRC+, putting really good wood on the ball at 9.4% barrels, 46.2% hard hits, 6 homers, 2 steals, getting on base at a solid clip. This is Jackson Holliday just fulfilling his potential, folks. This is not a flash in the pan over 150 plate appearances from a kid who's not good. This is a kid who is good, who was bad over his first small opportunity, who is now finally filling the shoes he's supposed to. He's very cheap, especially if he's leading off. 3,400, 2,700 against this pitcher. Lefty bat with that power upside. Cut strikeouts by 12 percentage points year over year so far. It's a terrific option in your middle infield. Second base is ideal for Jackson Holliday at those prices. Ryan Mountcastle for 3,500, 2,600. Raise your hand if you just traded for Ryan Mountcastle in your Dynasty League this weekend. I did. For one, he's a $4 option against our salary cap to at least rotate in at first base for me against my current first baseman, Nathaniel Lowe, because as you guys know, I did not get Tyler Soderstrom. But Mountcastle has always been an interesting enough hitter. He doesn't really strike out. He doesn't draw a ton of walks. So he's always putting bat on ball. And then it comes down to how he succeeds via fortune. Unfortunately for us, he's not the luckiest guy in the world. But this year, 12.1% barrels and 50% hard hits over 161 plate appearances, whatever those batted ball events look like, are both notably up from where we've been or all of last year. The barrels are a return to where he was in 23, with hard hits being up. Last year, he hit just 13 home runs in 507 plate appearances, but was otherwise just fine. Was a good run creator. /271, 308, 425. It's not great, but it's not bad. Year before that, 18 home runs in 470 plate appearances. You give him another 130 there to get him to 600. That's a 20-plus home run season. Going further back in time, 22 homers back in 2022, 33 homers back in 2021 before they fuck with the wall out there. And then he was a rookie. There is more power in that bat than we've seen recently. Does it come roaring back to life necessarily for a full season? No, not necessarily. Are there really positive indicators that could actually happen? Yeah. Do you want Ryan Mountcastle at 35-26 if you're going to the Orioles on a great day to go to the Orioles? Yeah, I think you do. Especially if he's hitting second again, which is where they've been landing him. He's also carrying a 12-game hit streak, I'll add. So he's putting tons of balls in play, slashing just 232, 267, 333. Again, not a lot of luck on his side so far. But the skill set is there. The ability to succeed for DFS at these prices is there. Gunnar Henderson for 4,700 is cheap. 3,000 on FanDuel is cheap. He's hit 7 home runs. I don't know what the sites are looking for. 165 plate appearances, a 258, 303, 471. Sure, underperformance there. But he's creating runs at a 119 WRC plus, 9.3% barrels, nearly 60% hard hits. Strikeouts are up, walks are down. I get it. There's been some flaws. There's been some underwhelming performances from him. But most of what we're looking for is entirely intact in Gunnar Henderson. I would strongly wager that we finish the season looking quite a bit like recent years. Adley Rutschman at 4,000, 2,700, another player who's just too talented to be this cheap. 4 home runs on the season, a 209, 301, 340 slash line, but an underlying 361 xWOBA. 8.7% barrels, 39.7% hard hits, doesn't strike out, draws plenty of walks. Adley Rutschman's just good. 4,000 is way too cheap where you have to play the catcher position. Ryan O'Hearn for 41.29, continuing just to succeed quietly. A quiet run-creating machine in the heart of this lineup from the left side of the plate. 41.29 with outfield eligibility on both sides, first base eligibility on FanDuel. He's slashing 301, 390, 512, 7 home runs, a 211 ISO, a 385 xWOBA, creating runs 62% better than average to lead this team. Last year, he hit 15 home runs, slash 264, 334, 427, was at a 119 WRC plus. Year before, 289, 322, 480, 18% better than average via WRC plus. He was tremendous since joining the Orioles. Really good option whose price really never climbs, despite being really quite good. I don't want to get too far out over my skis with Ryan O'Hearn here. Like, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that Ryan O'Hearn is a star or anything like that. But he's just a really good, solid, middle-of-the-lineup player. And he's never expensive. Ramon Laureano for 3,100, 2,600. He's hit 5 home runs in 97 plate appearances this year. He's got a 250 ISO, 340 xWOBA to tell us that it's real. If we had never seen this player before succeed like this before, but we have. We know that Ramon Laureano is capable of stretches like this. He's also capable of long stretches of zeros, given the high strikeout rate and the low walk rate. So be wary when you're putting him into your lineups. But if he's in their lineup, he can easily be in yours against this pitcher. 16.4% barrels and 47.5% hard hits. Those numbers are high, but they're not like way out of character for him. That's an excellent option for those cheap prices against this pitcher. Cedric Mullins at 45.32 is at worst playable. 9 home runs, 6 steals, 227, 328, 455, 227 ISO, a 126 WRC plus. The performance it comes and goes with Cedric Mullins, but major counting stat upside. I just would probably rather have Laureano for the cheaper price. Houston Kjerstad, 29-25. Tyler O'Neill out of the lineup. We'll probably see Kjerstad for pretty regularly for the next couple of weeks. Not a bad option. 10.3% barrels, 47% hard hits. 4 home runs on the season, but a pretty mediocre slash line. 328 xWOBA tells us the slash should come up. The WRC plus should come up. It's got a decent enough pedigree. Very cheap at those prices. And then Ramon Urias, a player we've talked about plenty over the last couple of seasons because all he does is sit at the bottom of their lineup on some days. He's made 95 plate appearances this year. He's always very cheap. He's never, ever popular. And he can hit for power. 2 home runs in 95 plate appearances. Just a .98 ISO. 0.98 ISO. Never makes great contact. Hit us 11 cheap, low-owned home runs in 301 plate appearances last year. Just 4 the year before that, but was otherwise all right. Year before that, 16 in 445 plate appearances. He's not bad at 3,000, 2,600, especially at second base on FanDuel. On the Brewers side, Bryce Turang in the leadoff spot, 46-29 from the left side against a weak righty like Dean Kramer. 3 home runs, 12 steals on the year, getting on at a 366 clip, 108 WRC plus. Puts good bat on ball this season. That's uncharacteristic given the last 2 seasons, but it looks more like the guy that we saw coming up a few years ago. I'm really interested in if that just minor, that little uptick in his quality of contact continues through the rest of the season. And you would easily trade 4 points of strikeout rate for that uptick, especially when he was walking a little bit more. He's been really good, kind of fulfilling his promise. 4,600, 2,900 remains cheap at the top of their lineup against a bad pitcher. Jackson Chourio, 53-31. We're down to 242, 260, 429. This is starting to get into like Victor Robles territory. This is the comparison I keep making to my friend Mike, who I traded him to last year. I am fully in support of Jackson Chourio eventually finding form and just roaring back to life here. But it's difficult to defend given what the numbers look like. Substandard barrel rate, just 41.8% hard hits. Not drawing any walks is a real concern. 260 on base, just a 281 xWOBA because of kind of partly at least the lack of walks. It's not great. Contreras at 43-31. Definitely some power upside. 4 home runs on the board, just a 103 ISO. 40.2% hard hits, 4.9% barrels. Is down from monster premium contact numbers over the last couple of seasons. Strikeouts are down a little bit. Walks are up a little bit. Good indicators there. He's very, very cheap, especially where you got to play catchers at 43 against this pitcher. But between the two, I'd probably rather have a slightly cheaper Adley Rutschman. Yelich at 43, 3,000. Terrible stretch at 199, 295, 349. Just an 81 WRC plus. Strikeouts way up at 27.9%. The hard hits and the barrels are right where they ought to be, right where we expect. The barrel's actually slightly down. But the strikeout number being up that much is kind of glaring for a hitter like this. I don't care about the average, but the on base being dipping like that, a little bit glaring. 315 xWOBA, not all that encouraging. I would be skeptical or at least cautious with Yelich right now if he wasn't facing Dean Kramer and priced at 4,300. I think there's massive upside in just including Yelich in anything that you do from the Brewers at those prices. Rhys Hoskins is only 3,900, 29 on FanDuel, despite slashing 288, 392, 446. 5 home runs on the board, an 11.5% barrel rate. This looks like the old version of Rhys Hoskins. He's looked really good. 8.88 leads the team today in the home run model. Isaac Collins, Sal Frelick, Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz. Like I said before, any one of those guys to round out a 5-man from the Brewers is fine. What you don't probably want is 2 of those guys in any given lineup. It's just which one of those guys goes with which 4 of the guys above them, pretty much. Nobody's really put any kind of quality bat on ball this year. They peaked with Sal Frelick at 273, 347, 373 with 8 stolen bases, 2 home runs. He's probably the priority bat from down there. He's the one positive run creator. He's also the guy that everybody who goes down to that part of the lineup is going to include in their lineup because he's the best player in that group. I don't mind alternating shares of Isaac Collins for much cheaper. He's got a home run. He's got stolen 3 bases. He's getting on base at an okay clip. You're not getting much else out of him. He's a mix and match piece, switch hitter from down lineup. Again, facing a really weak pitcher, you can alternate those lower end players a little bit more. Some Mendoza so far for both of those guys. Give me Orioles bats, Brewers bats, neither pitcher. Dimitri's here. Dimitri says, do seem like the O's starting pitchers have been getting shelled every game of late. Yeah, they're just not that good. Brewers, same deal. Brewers got some quality kids coming up, and they've got Brandon Woodruff coming back, though, at some point. Woodruff sprained his ankle at the end of his rehab, which sucked for those of us who were waiting for him to come back at $1 against our salary cap. But they're saying back to full health. The hurt ankle went away after a couple of days. He's going to make 2 rehab starts, and then he's back. You've already got, the hell's the kid's name? The Logan Henderson, right? I think that's the kid's name. Made a couple good starts for you already. And then you've got Jacob Mizraoski, who I'm really excited about. I actually added him this week in the Dynasty League, even though he's not called up yet. Flamethrower, throwing 103 the other day. Monster potential. He's another player. He's like 6'8". My team might not win the Dynasty League, but we would win any fight. Aaron Judge, that kid, McCusker, bunch of other dudes. Physical attributes, what it's all about. Synthetic says, O's letting Burns walk and adding nothing in the pitching department in the offseason is a travesty. They're playing Charlie Morton and Kyle Gibson in 2025. Can't disagree. Can't disagree as far as it's kind of a letdown with this team. You do have to remember, like, Grayson Rodriguez was in the mix and then wasn't, given the injury and everything. So, you know, there's definite letdown there. I think the plan was come in, see how the kids compete out of the gate, and then add during the season, because there's always, you know, arms available as we get toward the deadline and everything. And with the kids kind of underwhelming out of the gate, I think they're content maybe to sit back another season, give it another season of development, get Grayson back, and then kind of roll from there. We'll see. It's very early still. We're still only mid-May. But yeah, that disappointing in as far as team building goes, to not have a quality group on the mound to go with these bats. Team that's kind of getting it right in both departments, the Detroit Tigers. Not that today's pitcher would necessarily indicate that. Cater Montero is going to be now operating in bulk relief. I didn't bother to switch it. It's Sean Gunther opening. Cater Montero, very gettable. So far this year, 16.5% strikeouts against 10+% walks, a 4.68 ERA with a 4.85 xFIP, giving up plenty of home run upside, plenty of premium contact. Last year in 98 and a third, struck out just 18.7, 4.76 ERA with a 4.33 xFIP, 4.61% home runs is alarmingly high. That's despite not being terrible for premium contact. So that just means pretty much once a game at least, he's making one pretty bad mistake that gets nailed. Very, very gettable pitcher here. I don't love this Cardinals lineup at all. We've talked about it a bunch this year, but you can't really ignore that total. You can't really ignore the combination of pitchers that's going to be coming out in this one. So I do think the Cards are in play. They're just probably lower priority for me than maybe other places are seeing it. And I think that kind of comes through in the model. Forgot to grab the stack rankings. Where were they in stacks? I don't think they were great. Yeah, even with the matchup, their Vegas total only ranks 10th on an 18-team slate. And via fantasy projections on both sites, I've actually got them 15th. The home run mark is stands out a little bit. That's 8th. So better than halfway up the board. I do think there's chaseable pieces. Like you can see Wilson Contreras, 10.31 in the home run model. Lars Nootbaar at the top of the lineup, probably their best player right now, 9.84. But outside of those two guys, and really with Wilson Contreras, as we've talked about a bunch, only slotting in at first base now, on DraftKings. That's not ideal. It's a nice home run mark, but I don't know how really crazy worth chasing it is when you don't have a ton around him in the stack. He's hit 6 home runs this season, but just a 156 ISO, slashing 249, 332, 405. The on base has been good. The xWOBA tells us there's more to come. Our history with this hitter tells us there's more to come. Solid premium contact numbers in line with previous seasons, but more just another first baseman. Arenado, I don't really like at all. 247, 323, 384 home runs on the board, just 301 xWOBA, 133 ISO. Just kind of looking like the broken hitter that I think he is now. We've talked about it plenty. He doesn't strike out a lot. He draws some walks. He can get involved that way, but he's at a 95 WRC plus. That's him maxing out those skills. That's about all he can give us right now. Still an 8.30 in the home run model because there's a long memory there. I might be giving him too much credit for this version of that swing. Mason Wynn at 38, 3,000. He's been all right. 5 home runs, 260, 349, 425. Solid on base numbers. Creating runs 20% better than average via WRC plus. That's fine, but strikeouts are up. Walks are also up. Barrels and hard hits are up a little bit. He's not high priced against gettable starters. He would probably be the 3rd priority bat. I would probably look at like a Nootbaar, Wynn for 38, and Contreras at first for 38. And then you're getting $4,200 a man for a 3-man there. That might be the way to build the cards. Just be a little conservative with it. You don't get a lot of quality down lineup. You take or leave Arenado, and at 4,500, honestly, even though he's off to a very good start, over 195 plate appearances and kind of being the version of Brendan Donovan that we were always hunting for, at 45, I don't know how much I really need to go to that. It's fine because if you build the full 5-man, it just averages in. You're still at just 4,200 apiece for the 5-man if you include him and Arenado in that group. So it's fine, but that's also the direct line most popular version of that stack. And Donovan's not a 330, 387, 466 hitter with a 398, but 394 xWOBA is obviously the real current number and indicates that he is that guy. But we've got enough history to know that he's not going to carry that the entire season, or to suspect it anyway. So it's another guy he's fine. He is low strikeout. That's very believable. So if we're just looking for frequency of contact, if we're looking for some sequencing against some bad pitching, then sure. And the Cards are definitely capable of going off and having a double-digit run day and delivering in full for the DFS upside of it. But I don't love it. They don't rank out great. That Vegas total, again, despite being in the mid-4s, and as we talked about plenty, once we get into that territory, there's not any difference really at all between most of these totals, right? Any of these there's no daylight between 4.43 and on the high side of this group. Let's just go to the 4.69s. There's no daylight between those. To the 4.89, in reality, there's no daylight. There's nothing in a 0.2 runs. It's really just offset from these. All those other games in the mid-4s are about the same. And then these teams in the mid-3s are about the same. So I don't think it's unrealistic to not completely love the Cards in favor of other teams. But on the other side of that same coin, you could easily be saying, go to the Cards. That total is competitive with those other teams, and they're facing nothing pitching. The Tigers at just a 3.62 implied total is interesting. This is what I'm wrestling with. You can see that the top end of this lineup is pulling strong fantasy numbers now. They're just good. Everybody's creating runs at a very strong above average clip via WRC plus outside of Trey Sweeney. Sonny Gray has not been peaked Sonny Gray, 4.50 ERA, but a 3.53 xFIP underneath it. It's gotten a little bit unlucky. Strikeouts are down, but they're still a very high quality 24.8%. Walks are fine at 5.5%, 11.4% swinging strikes, 29.7% CSW. Those are all good numbers, but he's given up a 10.6% barrel in there. 40+% on hard hits, just under 90 miles an hour of exit veloads resulted in some home runs against. Home runs very wonky, can come and go, but those numbers are notably up, including the launch angle so far. It's only 9 starts. It's 50 innings versus 166 in the third, 28 starts last year. But with strikeouts going down, with swinging strikes still being good, but taking a dip. Same with strikeouts. With premium contact being up. Stuff plus going markedly down by about 14 points. Not throwing as many strikes overall. Most of that is in those swinging strikes. It doesn't really jibe with this guy from back in 23 either, because you can see the run limitations and the premium contact were wildly different. So year over year here, 23 to 24, he lost a bit as far as the contact numbers go, but he made up for it with swinging strikes, with strikeouts. And now both those things are kind of slipping. If I had to bet gun to my head style, does Sonny Gray bounce back, finish the year fairly strong over the next 2/3 of the season? I would say yeah. I think we're probably going to finish at a sub 4 ERA, reasonably above 25%, 25, 28% strikeouts. But the home runs could impact that. The premium contact could impact that. He's more gettable. So if they're going to be a little bit off the radar against one of the better pitchers on the slate just in a vacuum, kind of at least a little intrigued by the Tigers. A couple of those big lefty bats like Kerry Carpenter, like Riley Green, who's been on fire. Like both those options, 7.14 for Kerry Carpenter could arguably be a little bit low. If you were just targeting this year's version of Sonny Gray in the model, that number would be higher. Riley Green's number would be higher. Spencer Torkelson would be higher. All three of those guys probably would be 10 plus in the model if it was only against these 50 innings. If this was like a rookie and this was all the sample we had, plus the averages. Carpet just 42, 3,000. That's a pretty good price for a player at 291, 319, 513 with a 222 ISO, 9 home runs, a 135 WRC plus over 167 opportunities. Glaber at 49, 33 as the most expensive player on this team on DraftKings anyway, $100 off the Riley Green price on FanDuel. It's easy enough to go to, honestly. For one, you can average the pricing down with basically any version of this stack. And this is peak Glaber. 9.3% strikeouts, 9.9% walks, 290, 371, 450, 5 home runs, 4 steals. He's been excellent. He's been the upside version of this player from a couple years ago, and he wasn't that bad last year. Colt Keith at least carrying a 9.4% barrel, just 230, 351, 372. The on base is excellent. The xWOBA at 378 tells us there should be a big upswing. So does the player's pedigree from the minor leagues. Walking at a 15.7% clip over 134 plate appearances is not nothing. Definite upside, 3,100 at first base, 2,600 at second base, but you do have the positional conflict with Glaber there. What that is a reasonable alternative if he's hitting third. Lineup's still not here. So at worst, some back and forth there. Riley Green is a priority in this lineup. 16.3% barrels, 48% hard hits, 11 home runs, a 236 ISO, creating runs 37% better than average. Riley Green is star caliber. 3,400 on FanDuel is correct. 4,400 on DraftKings is incorrect. And this is honestly could be easily $200-300 higher. Torque at 48.32, 12 home runs on the board this year. Didn't get our home run as the home run pick of the day the other day, but we'll forgive him. 14.9% barrels, 47.9% hard hits. Riley Green did get us the home run pick when he was the home run pick of the day a couple days before that. Love the upside for Torkelson, given the premium contact that he's been making, given what the home runs have totaled out to. He's getting on at a 349 clip. The 396 xWOBA tells us that it's real / continuing to go up. The contact looks like the guy from 2 years ago who hit all those home runs. The strikeouts are down at the best level he's ever been at. He's drawing walks at the best rate he's ever been at. Looks tremendous right now. Still a little bit too cheap on DK. Definitely still too cheap at 32 on FanDuel. McKinstry, playable at 39.29 with multi-position eligibility on both sides. Over 170 plate appearances. He's at 281, 367, 418. He's getting difficult to just kind of brush off. He's been very good this season. It's more about the hit tool, the correlated scoring ability. We'll see what that looks like hitting 6th, but he's at least reasonable. Dylan Dingler, a little bit of premium contact upside from a cheap catcher who's slashing 286, 313, 452, 340 xWOBA, 4 home runs on the board. Excellent numbers for contact. For only 3,800, definitely interesting if you're going to this team. Trey Sweeney has been their worst player out of this version of the lineup, but he's still got 4 home runs on the board, slashing 250, 313, 365. Not terrible. Should have upside for more. And then the unexpected Javi Baez resurgence, 291, 326, 485. Green runs 31% better than average with 6 home runs. It's the best stretch of 141 plate appearances he's put together in years. I gotta say, Cards bats, Sonny Gray, Tigers bats, but I think it's all just a lot closer than it might otherwise look. And I actually like the Tigers better than the Cardinals. Phillies in Coors Field. Kind of interesting. 6+ implied total. We've got the Rockies lineup. We do not have the Phils lineup. Let's talk Christopher Sanchez first. 8,000 on DraftKings. Sign me up. Even at Coors Field, I just don't care. Pitching to a 2.91 ERA, a 3.13 xFIP, 28.4% Ks. He's walking a few too many at 9.3, but we'll take it against this squad. Who cares? They have a few guys who can draw walks, but alternately, they have a few guys who are definitely not going to draw walks and will strike out quite a few times. I love this price on Chris Sanchez. 8,000. He's the top projected pitcher on our board, even pitching at Coors Field. Rockies drawing a 4+ implied total, but just over the line at 4. That could easily be below 4. Sanchez with a breakout season, really over the last 2 years, was up and down this year, gave up too many home runs, too much premium contact, too much power, but was good with an uptick for strikeouts that year. Didn't walk that many, and you could see a 3.10 xFIP in his 18 starts. Then last year, 3.32 ERA, 3.19 xFIP, struck out 20%, but just walked 5.8. Normalized the premium contact in an awful hurry, kept hitters to just a 2.4 degree average launch, and lost just 1.46% home runs over 31 starts. Is repeating that performance as far as the quality and the nature of the contact, but has lost a couple extra home runs in the short sample so far this year. Fully expect that to normalize. You can see where the stuff plus mark has shot up pretty dramatically by about 20 points. Definitely interested in this pitcher. 28.4% strikeouts this year, and I do expect those walks to go back down. At 99 on FanDuel, the hope would be that he doesn't get as popular as he ought to be facing this team in a neutral park. In Coors Field, maybe that keeps people away at that high price. Probably doesn't work out that way. If you're going to the Rockies against Ezequiel Tovar in the lineup at 31-32 is kind of interesting. 80 plate appearances so far this year, 1 home run, 2 steals, 348 xWOBA in that small sample. Was good last year, but also swung and missed more than anybody in baseball last year. Hit 26 home runs, but only got on at a 295 clip. Had a 200 ISO, but only created runs 5% worse than average. A lot of bad in with the good. Should be a good strikeout opportunity for Christopher Sanchez. Jordan Beck has been good out of the leadoff role. 8 home runs, 264, 333, 570 so far. 19% barrels and 47.6% hard hits. Over 135 plate appearances. Starting to get interesting. It's turned into 8 home runs, 5 steals. Creating runs 32% better than average. Again, against a very high-end pitcher, you're at least going to, one, the bump from the leadoff spot as far as just the opportunities, and then just the quality that Jordan Beck has shown. And this is him kind of stepping into an extremely high-end version of what he's expected to become, but nonetheless, stepping into sort of what he's supposed to be. Hunter Goodman at 4,400 is an interesting catcher and remains so. 299, 352, 506 so far this season with a 207 ISO, making killer contact. A lot of expectations for things to come down, normalize, more strikeouts on the way, et cetera, et cetera. I kind of have faith. I don't know that the strikeouts don't go back up to like 24.5, 25, maybe 26%. We probably stay short of 29%, 30%, I think. A lot of good bat on ball out of this hitter. I'm interested at the price. 44 on DraftKings, where you have to play catchers at Coors Field, not uninteresting. Outfield and first base eligible on FanDuel for 34. Not uninteresting, but again, terrible matchup against Sanchez. Talia, 36-31 with his power upside. Just facing a pitcher who keeps the ball down significantly. He's also not been great this year. 209, 278, 373. 6 home runs, just a 290 xWOBA. A lot of the flaws with Talia have been shining through more than the quality so far this year. The walks are down. The strikeouts are up. It's been problematic. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of power there, maybe against some other pitchers as the week goes on. Brenton Doyle, good barrels and hard hits so far this year, delivering just a 203, 253, 315 slash line, just a 318 xWOBA. It tells us that things will probably continue to linger down there while the premium contact continues to dip. But he is better than those numbers. Like, I'm more a believer in that side of it than him being this low end. Should be at least some good premiums, some good counting stats in there for cheap. But again, just not the data to really attack it. When we've really got to peel the onion back to find the quality, we probably don't want to go there against a very, very good pitcher who keeps the ball in the yard typically. Ryan McMahon apparently on the trade market, just slashing 206, 333, 374, at least getting on base, but just an 88 WRC plus, 6 home runs, despite making some pretty good premium contact over that many plate appearances. You would think that would be a little bit higher. The quality comes and goes with McMahon. Always has, always will. For the cheap price, if you're going to this team, he remains a very playable option at third. But it's getting harder and harder to call him a reason to go to the Rockies. And lefty-lefty against this pitcher, I don't love it. Tyler Freeman, Adil Amador, Jacob Stallings down lineup. At best, mix and match pieces. Mostly you don't want those guys. The Phils, no lineup yet. Facing Kyle Freeland, who we just don't want. 16.9% Ks from Freeland. I will give him that he's only walking 3.9%, carrying a 3.47 xFIP underneath that ugly 6.15 ERA. Maybe if he pitched his entire career in a different ballpark, we'd be talking in different terms about Kyle Freeland. I just don't think there's much there. 5,000 on DraftKings. If you want to throw a dart or two at the idea that maybe he succeeds over six innings at Texas last time out, gave up 3 earned, struck out 5, allowed a home run, 6 hits. Last time he played in this ballpark, faced Detroit, gave up 11 hits, 9 runs, but only 5 of them earned. Struck out 2, walk 1. A lot of downside, and most of his downside starts have come in his own ballpark. Don't like it at all. Phillies bats against at a 6+ total. Trey Turner off the top at 59.39. A little bit of a Coors tax going on for sure. 294, 352, 378, though. He's been very good. 2 home runs, 10 steals, creating runs 7% better than average. What you haven't gotten is premium contact. Haven't really delivered much power this season. But even if he's just a table setter ahead of Harper, ahead of Castellanos, ahead of Schwarber, he's very playable at shortstop. It's just a very high price for the quality that you've gotten as far as the numbers that create big fantasy scores go. Harper at 61.43, fully priced. 257, 376, 439. There's good in there. There's bad in there. 387 xWOBA is extremely encouraging that the good is going to continue to outweigh the bad. 11.4% barrels, 50% hard hits, drawing a 16% walk rate against 19.5% strikeouts. The good definitely outweighs the bad with Bryce Harper. You just go to him if you're playing the Phillies. He's very expensive, but he's well worth it. Nicky Castellanos at 52.33. That's a high price on DK. 33 on FanDuel, not bad. If he's hitting third, that's definitely appealing. 278, 323, 415 against this pitcher in this ballpark. Love the upside for Castellanos. He's going to be super popular on FanDuel if that's the case, though. Kyle Schwarber, no issues, lefty, monster home run mark, 13.57 meters. Team leader for this matchup, 15 on the board so far this year. 305 ISO under a 435 xWOBA, 161 WRC plus. Kyle Schwarber is just terrific. 6,400, 4,500, and well worth it. Getting Real Muto under 5,000 at Coors Field is kind of interesting where you have to play catchers. 245, 327, 396 is a kind of mediocre slash line. But under the covers, a 348 xWOBA coming off of an 11.9% barrel, 46.5% hard hit. He's delivering some very high-end contact. He's walking at a 10.9% clip, so there's a little bit of run creation upside there. That's not a bad option to help average down the pricing of these extremely expensive guys up top. It doesn't get you all the way to where you need to be. You probably got to go 2 out of those 4 plus him and then one of the down lineup guys. Because like the direct 5-man is a $5,700 a piece improbability as far as being able to afford that and a good pitching combination and a good secondary stack. But if you went, let's say we definitely want Harper and Schwarber plus Real Muto as a 3-man, that's 58 a piece. But let's say like we get Alec Boehm at 4,000, we're down to 53.50. It's not exactly getting cheap enough, quick enough. And then you would have to do like Weston Wilson. That just gets it down to 5. So that's not ideal. Yeah, this is a difficult price issue. So your decision point probably comes to I mean, at 5 with that version of the stack, you can make it work, I think. But it probably comes down to a decision between Harper and Schwarber in most of your Philly stacks. Because presumably if you're building a bunch of lineups, you're going to have multiple bites at the apple here. So if you wanted to go 1, 2, Castellanos, Harper because he's cheaper out of the 2. That's 5,000 already. And then obviously dropping Turner into that. So it's probably just one of the stars, honestly, to get to anything reasonable. And then you're still going Wilson in this version of the lineup. That at least gets you down to 48 apiece, 47.60. And you get Harper, Castellanos, Realmuto, and Bohm. And then kind of a compromise on Weston Wilson, who over 15 plate appearances hasn't been bad. Last year, over 98 wasn't bad. Hit 3 home runs, stole 3 bags, 284, 347, 489. So that's a competent 100-plus plate appearances. He's playable. In 22, the year before that, he was even better. String that together, and it gets out to a sample of not quite similar size, but at least it's 100-plus. It's really challenging given those prices on DraftKings, though. I was hoping that would average down a little bit better as I was starting that exercise. Edmundo Sosa, Johan Rojas down lineup, both playable mix and match pieces. It's a high-end version down lineup here. It's not out of the question to go like 1, 2, 3 as a short DraftKings stack. Even that is 4,000 a piece. But that's not completely crazy because Alec Bohm is a good hitter. 256, 299, 341, uncharacteristically struggling so far this year, but putting good bat on ball at 8.1% barrels, 46.3% hard hits. He's very low strikeout, very low walk. So you're getting a lot of opportunities. And again, in Coors Field, this gigantic ballpark, just putting the ball in play really works pretty well. Edmundo Sosa is a playable option with multi-position eligibility in the infield. So you go third base, second base, and then a cheap outfielder. Or you could honestly on DraftKings, if you wanted, instead of going to Wilson, who's playable in the outfield, if you wanted to make it a little bit more expensive and grab Realmuto with those 2 guys, now you can fill catcher third and second, and you're still 4,400. You got to call it 45. It's not completely nuts to go 3-man there and just go with some of the alternative pieces. Might be, in fact, be a better way to roster Phillies because everybody's going to these guys anyway. They're super expensive. So at least consider those options down lineup. It will be a deep Phillies lineup. They're typically playable from top to bottom. Phillies bats, Christopher Sanchez. Although on DraftKings, that could easily, especially given the hitter prices, the cheap price on Sanchez, and like what the popularity is going to look like, that could easily look like Sanchez on top and then the Phillies bats. It probably actually does. On FanDuel, it is the Phillies bats above Christopher Sanchez, and then Rockies bats, no Kyle Freeland. Michael Knack saying, adding, also reminding, appreciate it. Cold and wind blowing in at Coors, definitely upside. Cub says, if you're going to the Rockies today, I know an inexpensive website you should subscribe to that might help your DFS decisions. Hopefully you mean rotoscouts.com. I know that site too. Bias due to strike out 4 times against Sonny. Yeah, look, we were talking about it the other day. I know you know him well. Monster bounce back this year. Yeah, so Sanchez looks really interesting at that DK price. And again, the hope on FanDuel would be that he just gets rendered a little bit lower owned by being at a high price. Monster pitching matchup here, Robbie Ray. I see more downside with Robbie Ray, given that 12.4% walk rate that is concerningly high, like it always is with this pitcher when he's not quite going well. He's gotten lucky on home runs. 2.39% home run rate so far. We talked about it last time. That comes in spite of a 9.4% barrel rate allowed on a 14.5 degree average launch. 46.9% hard hits is huge. That's way above our 40% threshold. 91.7 miles an hour of exit velocity on average is way above our 90 mile an hour threshold. We've seen Robbie Ray give up this kind of contact and be in the 4 to 5% home run rate territory before. It typically does come with strikeouts, but it also comes with way too many walks, way too many guys on base. A 1.25 whip is too high. He's getting away with it so far this year, 3.04 ERA, but that xFIP is a full run higher than the ERA already. It's not a bad xFIP in a vacuum, but it doesn't exactly jive with those price tags at 10,000 and 10.2. Going up against a Royals team that's striking out at just 19.6% so far this year, 18.5 last year. A lot of their top hitters are super low strikeout and believably super low strikeout. It is an ideal matchup for Robbie Ray. So those prices, I think he projects out fairly. I think he's where he ought to be. But for me, he's lower priority than all the other top-end pitchers. It gets into the, who was it, Bailey Ober when we looked before? Him versus Robbie Ray gets interesting. I would rather have Chris Bubic on the other side of this game at 97. At 10.5 on FanDuel, maybe that's more of a conversation. 10.5 for him versus 10.2 for Robbie Ray. There's easily more strikeouts for Bubic to go find. He's succeeding this year, 25.6% strikeouts over 54 and a third, 9 starts. He's given you more depth than Robbie Ray has so far this season in his starts. 6.8% walks is part of that, fewer pitches. 1.66 ERA. He's not going to be that good for long, but the 3.43 xFIP is very appealing and probably a realistic number. Has not given up much home run in terms of home runs. Not much in terms of premium contact either. The barrels is manageable at 7.5%, 37.7 hard hits, 86.9 miles an hour of exit velo is notably low. A full 5 miles an hour lower than Robbie Ray's average exit velocity, while inducing a 14.8% swing, coming up to with a 31.5% CSW. Chris Bubic has been excellent this year. DraftKings is a little bit behind the curve. Power saying Zastrizny will open for Quinn Priester. No real impact there. We're just targeting pitch. We're targeting bats in that one anyway. But good note. Appreciate it. Had not seen. So between the two, again, Bubic for me, definitely on DK at the cheaper price. And probably also at the higher price on FanDuel. And again, the hope there would be the higher price just keeps people away and we can go there. I kind of want to go high end on pitching today. Not a great day for bargain pitching, I don't think. Bats, given the Vegas totals, a little bit more difficult to justify. I just think Vegas has it the wrong way around. A 3.33 implied total for the Royals against Robbie Ray doesn't really feel correct. That seems low. 3.75 implied total for the Giants against Bubic. I could buy that. But if the Royals were also at a 3.7 something, I think they should be more even up with both teams in the upper threes. Ballpark obviously favors pitching a little bit, but this is a very capable Royals lineup. Jonathan India took a bump over the weekend. We'll see whether he's in the lineup or not. I don't think this one's confirmed. Nope. Couple of confirmed. The Cards is a little bit different. Arenado sliding to 6th. Herrera in the lineup hitting 5th. He's been tremendous in his plate appearances this year. And then it's Burleson, Pedro Pajes, and Victor Scott. So you get that 3 catcher configure, or not 3 because Contreras isn't a catcher anymore. FanDuel, it's 3 catchers, but that doesn't matter. Rockies lineup, we had Guardians lineup is a little bit different. Ana Martinez hitting 2nd. Nolan Jones sliding down to 6. Otherwise the same. I think we had these other ones when we talked. So neither of these lineups is in. So getting back into it, if India is in the leadoff role, if you've been here for any show we've talked about the Royals, you know I like the option as a table setter. Getting on at a 330 clip, just 1 home run, no steals continues to be weird as far as those counting stats that have just completely disappeared this year. Typically he's good for a handful of home runs, some stolen bases. I expect we'll get back there eventually, but everything else is kind of in line. The contact is around his usual numbers, which are not typically all that great. But a 333 xWOB is in line with expectations. We should see continued upswing in his slash line if he's able to stay on the field. And if nothing else, very good correlated scoring option with Bobby Witt, who's a superstar at 6,000, 4,000. 5 home runs, 16 steals, getting on at a 371 clip, creating runs 39% better than average, making tremendous contact. Good results. Sal Perez is making tremendous contact and not seeing the results so far. 223, 259, 331. Ugly so far for Sal. 2 home runs despite a 13.2% barrel, 46.3% hard hits. Just a ton of atom balls. Sal's been mashing and seeing no results from it. A 109 ISO. Doesn't jive at all with that contact. 362 xWOBA tells you that story that I just told you. Everything should be on the rise for Sal. 11.03 in the home run model today against Robbie Ray, who gives up power. Major upside for Sal Perez against this pitcher. Like within the context of already going to Royal stacks. I don't want to oversell the Royals and get people thinking that they're a great opportunity at a 3.33 implied total. Mark Canha, a good on-base option. Little bit of power in that bat, 275, 356, 314 over 59 plate appearances. Just doing Mark Canha things so far. Fairly low strikeout, reasonable ability to draw a walk. It's a great hitter to throw up against Robbie Ray, just in the cleanup role for a cheap price. Not a bad option at all. Michael Garcia in his tremendous season so far. 15% strikeouts, 10.2% walks. A characteristic that was kind of there last year with an increase in the walks this season. 301, 371, 482, 360 xWOBA, 5 home runs, 10 steals. He's been absolutely tremendous. He's been one of their best players, probably their second best player so far this season. Vinny Pasquantino, down lineup a little bit, 3,200, 2,800. He's at 222, 268, 373. He's at up to 7 home runs. A little bit of stabilization, hopefully at least. The power coming through a little bit. It's just the typical quality that we expect from Vinny Pasquantino hasn't quite been fully engaged yet. But I'm going to continue going back there at those prices. 3,200 is dramatically cheap for him on DraftKings. 28, very cheap for him on FanDuel as well. 8.67 in the home run model for him. 8.62 for Hunter Renfroe if you get him from the right side. He's been completely lost for the last season plus. There's a lot of history in that model, though, as far as the home run upside. We just need one good swing for 2,200 on either site against this pitcher. So he's playable. He's not a priority in any way, but he's playable. Freddie Fermin, if he's in the lineup, 2,500, 2,200 across sites, over 90 plate appearances. He's off the mark as far as his typical high-quality slash lines. 271, 319, 366 last year, 281, 321, 461 the year before. Also hit 9 home runs that year and created runs above average. You're just typically looking for him to be a put the ball in play 3 times kind of option because he doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't draw a ton of walks and have a cheap sticker price at catcher. So he's more of a DraftKings asset if you go to him than he is a FanDuel one. But given the underperformance this year, it's a little bit more difficult to justify against a pitcher who is, again, high quality despite some very obvious warts. It's not a great Freddie Fermin day, but he's playable. Teron Blanco, speed option from the bottom spot. He's stolen 3 bases in 3 plate appearances. It's noteworthy. On the Giants end, with the higher total, but again, against the pitcher that I'd rather have, skeptical. Sub 4 implied total, not really a priority. Everybody in the 4,000s on DK. A little bit more high priced on FanDuel. They're slightly cheaper on DraftKings. A lot of righties, a lot of right-handed power in this lineup. Elliot Ramos, Wilmer Flores, Matt Chapman, Willy Adames. 4 very good options from the right side to start this projected version of the lineup at affordable prices. There's no reason you couldn't at least consider a few Giant stacks if you're building out like 150 lineups. 8 home runs on the board for Ramos while slashing 293, 360, 494, 201 ISO, continuing a very good season from last year. Last year, 14.5% barrels. This year, 13.5, similar hard hit numbers. Cut a few points off the strikeout rate, increased the walk rate a little bit. This is a growing hitter, still only 4,100 on DK. Take advantage. 33 on FanDuel is the most expensive Giants bat. Wilmer at 43.32, 10 home runs on the board, 258, 324, 454. We've succeeded for years taking inexpensive Wilmer Flores against lefties. I think he's at least in play today, but not a top priority just in a vacuum across the entire slate. Young-Hoo Lee, playable in this spot, 43.31. He's slashing 276, 318, 464, creating a ton of runs. Good bat on ball skills. Not tremendous power, but very low strikeout, low walk, so a lot of high-quality balls in play. Matty Chapman on that list, that short list of beautiful swings, 8 home runs on the board, a 354 xWOBA, 10.5% barrels, 50% hard hits, stolen 5 bases. A lot of upside with Matt Chapman any given slate. Willy Adames starting to normalize. 5 home runs, just 223, 303, 359, but those numbers looked worse a couple weeks ago. 310 xWOBA, 12% barrels, 46.6% hard hits. We're getting there. 4,000, 2,800, still way too cheap for the player that he actually is. Luis Matos, Patrick Bailey, David VR, all mix and match pieces. VR kind of appealing against the lefty, but this is a high quality lefty. I don't love it outside of just if you're building a bunch of giant stacks. If he's hitting higher in the lineup, if he happens to hit like, second, third, somewhere in that territory, does become more interesting again, given the splits. Tyler Fitz back in the lineup in the 9 spot is interesting. 37 at second base, not a bad option. 2,800 multi-position on FanDuel, not bad. In 98 plate appearances before he got hurt, 295, 354, 443, 2 home runs, 5 steals, created runs 26% better than average. The xWOBA is kind of glaringly against those numbers, but it jibes with the 341 plate appearances he had the year before. 280, 333, 497, 15 homers, 17 steals, 217 ISO, a 132 WRC plus. He was very good last year in half a season, and he was good in 98 plate appearances to start this season. I think there's an opportunity that he might just be good. Playable piece down lineup. Chris Bubich. Robbie Ray. Ugh. Chris Bubich, unenthusiastically Robbie Ray. And then for me, again, I think it's Royals bats, Giants bats. I really do. I would rather target Robbie Ray. 2 games to go. Angels pulling a 4.44 and some at least noteworthy power numbers against JT Ginn. So far, 6.35% home runs on 51.2% hard hits. Just under our threshold of 90 miles an hour of exit velo. 12.2% barrels. That's come on just a 4-degree average launch. He's been keeping the ball down outside of those big mistakes, but those big mistakes have definitely gotten him. 3 home runs allowed in his last game. That'll hurt. That was against Texas. 3 2/3. Gave up. It was 3 solo shots though. Struck out just 2. Walked 2. No home runs over 4 2/3 against Milwaukee, but gave up 3 earned on 4 hits to 20 hitters. Struck out 7 in that one. Walked just 2. Struck out 6 in the debut against the Mets. 5 1/3. Just one earned run on a home run. Struck out 6. Walked 2. 5 hits. I could see the argument for the Angels. The mid-force total, the standout 11.37 for Jorge Soler in the middle of the lineup. He's hit 6 home runs this year. Otherwise, it's been a little bit underwhelming, but the premium contact numbers, the 11.2% barrels, at least within range of what we expect from that hitter. I like the upside. One good piece of bat on ball, one good batted ball event is all we need out of Jorge Soler. He can give us zeros in every other plate appearance. Zach Neto at 48.34. 7 home runs, 7 steals in just 116 plate appearances this year, carrying a 15.1% barrel, 52.1% hard hits. Looking like a star, quite honestly. Given last year's very strong season, 23 homers, 30 steals, over 602 plate appearances, a 194 ISO, 14% better than average for run creation. I don't think he's mispriced. Honestly, probably a little bit cheap. Nolan Shanuel at 3,200. Good on base option. They should probably flip those 2 hitters in this lineup. Have Shanuel get on base. Have Neto drive him in. I'm putting my bid to manage the Angels. I think Shanuel's at worst playable. He's not a big bat, but he's an excellent option for on base for correlated scoring, and he can drive runs in. He can put good bat on ball. So playable. Joel Moncada at 44.29. I never thought we would see him at 4,400 again. 226, 351, 468, kind of a mixed bag in that slash line. Getting on base at a very effective clip. Barreling baseballs at an 18.6% rate in his batted ball events over 74 plate appearances and fewer batted ball events. He's hit 3 home runs, carrying a 242 ISO at 363 xWOBA. I just feel like they kind of escalated that price in a hurry. I would like to see this continue on for more time before paying that much for him. 29 on FanDuel is a little bit reasonable. I'm reluctant to fully jump on board with the Moncada uptick. 3,500, 2,900 for Taylor Ward, though. Not bad. 12 home runs on the board. I don't really care about the 197, 246, 445. I'm just home run hunting if I'm playing Taylor Ward anyway. So I don't really care that he's not getting on base as much as he ought to. I mean, we care to some degree, but with a hitter like this, it's much more about just this being entirely where it ought to be and up from last season. It's about the 12 home runs that he's already hit, the 249 ISO. There's plenty there. Logan O'Hoppe at 37.29. He's hit 10 home runs. He's got a 230 ISO, 324 xWOB underneath that. Also making stellar contact, over 143 plate appearances. And it's up from the last 2 seasons, but it completely jibes with those seasons as far as the quality of the hitter. He's high strikeout, low walk. He's not a 3 true outcomes guy. He's just a, premium contact, home runs, a lot of Ks, a lot of zeros, and then take what you get around the edges. But when we're home run hunting already again with this team, I don't mind it. Matthew Lugo, Luis Renifo, and Kyron Paris down lineup if that's what we get. Lugo's been very good over 26 plate appearances. It's an extremely small sample, but he's hit 3 home runs. A little bit of upside in his premium contact numbers so far. We'll see where it normalizes to, but he's very, very cheap down lineup. Renifo's just a pretty good bat on ball player with some stolen base upside. Has been terrible, though, over 151 plate appearances this year. Nowhere near the quality that he was last year. And then Kyron Paris hit a couple home runs in a hurry, has hit 1 since that hot start, and has plummeted to 193, 264, 395 because he is just not that good. Premium contact is there, but that is some batted ball events lingering from the hot start. The A's against Jose Soriano. Another Vegas total that it reflects a little bit of the ballpark for sure. It reflects a little bit of maybe the walks that Soriano has allowed, maybe some of the underperformance. But he's better than his numbers. 3.46 ERA with a 3.57 xFIP kind of, I think, tells that story. 10.4% walks is too high. 11% swinging strikes, but just a 27.4% CSW. Those marks are off a little bit. 19% strikeouts, off a little bit. Just 91 rating by Stuff Plus is honestly surprising given how good some of his stuff can look and how high functioning it can be at times. We've talked about this before, but in relief work 2 years ago, he carried a 30+% strikeout rate. 14.8% swinging, 33.9% CSW. A lot of that went away last year when he became a full-time starter. In 20 starts, 113 innings, he had just a 20.7% strikeout, 10.1% swinging, 26.7% CSW. So we've seen an uptick here, but we've actually lost a couple of full-on strikeouts. We'll see where the truth lands in the long term. He's always going to walk too many. He's always going to put too many guys on base, which also helps, again, the A's upside. But I can see him getting through for a good start here, despite the ballpark, despite the quality in the A's lineup. At 7,300 on DraftKings, that's got appeal. I think he's one of the better SP2, like when we're talking about the true cheap SP2 options. At 93 on FanDuel, I don't really understand how they arrived at that price. That's just too high. I think you could get there. The right day, the top couple options on this shaky pitching board go pop. Chris Sanchez doesn't have an upside day at Coors Field. Robbie Ray's not good. Chris Bubich isn't good. You could see that lane being created for him. And then he really has to be peak Jose Soriano to pay off 93 for you. There's just enough there because nobody's going to use it on FanDuel, but it's way, way more appealing on DraftKings at 73. A's bats definitely in play against all of that, though. Again, the high frequency of contact, the walks, the extra opportunities with guys on base, the fact that 2 of those guys are above the magic number and then another 3 of them are hovering right around it in terms of the home run model. Those are Soderstrom and Brent Rooker above, plus Shea Langoliers at 9.47, Nick Kurtz at 8.62, 9.39 for Lawrence Butler in the top spot. One of the best hit tools in baseball in Jacob Wilson in the 2 spot at 337, 369, 478 this year. Creating runs 43% better than average. Those are all excellent options to throw at this pitcher. So in no way think I'm saying that the A's are not in play. They very much are. They're one of the highest totals on the board. Everybody is under 5,000 on DraftKings, despite pretty good performances so far this year. On FanDuel, the highest priced player is $3,400 Tyler Soderstrom. Brent Rooker at $3,200 in the outfield. It's easy to envision some success for the Athletics today. Butler at $43.29 is too cheap. Premium contact galore. He's struggled in terms of the results this year, but given the fact that the contact has been there, I think it's more happenstance than anything else. Strikeouts are up a little bit, but the walks are up kind of commensurate with that. It's too good a player to linger. I think we just take him while he's cheap. Again, Wilson, tremendous hit tool, 4,200, not expensive enough on DraftKings. FanDuel, even at 3,000, a little bit cheap. Given the performance that we've seen and the consistency of quality that we've seen, He's never going to be a big solo contributor. I shouldn't say never. I mean, he has hit 5 home runs, stolen 3 bases, and put up some big games already this season. More often than not, he's going to be an extreme low strikeout guy, low walk, a lot of frequency of contact, a lot of on base, and BABIP. But he's been driving this offense so far. Soderstrom and Rooker tied at 10 home runs apiece. Langoliers at 8. Langoliers the least reliable out of those 3 hitters. So far this year, he's been just fine. But typically, he's more hit and miss with just home run hunting. Rooker gives you a little bit more than that. Soderstrom should continue to give you a little bit more than that in terms of consistent quality. Kurtz at just 2,600, 2,500 across sites, a reasonable alternative at first base. Actually, he's the only first baseman on DraftKings. Reasonable alternative if you put Soderstrom in the outfield or just switch back and forth. So far, we're at just 219, 272, 315, just 1 home run, 8.9% barrels, and 44.4% hard hits. It took him a while to get engaged for premium contact, but we have seen a little bit of it. We've also seen too many strikeouts, not enough walks. It's been mixed quality so far, let's say. But the talent is very, very real. The power is very, very real. I do think you could play against Jose Soriano. The thing that I forgot to throw into the mix with Soriano is the extreme negative 0.9 degree average launch. That's why he's good at limiting home run upside. And as I said at the beginning of the show, we are actually, that's counted for here, and you're still getting these A's at pretty decent home run marks. Miguel Andujar, not a bad option, 35-27. Again, when we're talking about a pitcher like this with that low launch angle, it does at times pay to build in guys who are hit tool focused. Guys who are going to just pop singles into the outfield, get on base for the other guys. So I think Andujar, given those attributes, 312, 338, 432, continuing to do that, definitely in play. JJ Bleday, a little bit of pop from the 8 spot. Luis Urias, same thing from the 9 spot. Urias, 6 home runs. Bleday, 6 home runs. Urias has been better over his 116 plate appearances overall, but both guys kind of mix and match with a little bit of upside for quality, a little bit of upside for power. I guess I got to agree with Vegas and say, no, actually, you know what? I think my stack rankings have it the other way. Yeah. Angels 4th in stacks on FanDuel, 5th in stacks on DraftKings. 1st by value on FanDuel, 3rd by value on DK, 5th by home runs, 6th by Vegas ranking. The Athletics are 3rd in Vegas total, 3rd in home run upside, despite Soriano's ability to limit home runs. They rank 9th across the board for points and value. That is very, very close. I'm going to go a little anti-Vegas here. Take the slightly lower total, but again, 444, 517, both good totals. I'm going to take the Angels against the worst of these two pitchers, I think. Angels bats slightly above the Athletics bats. Jose Soriano above JT Ginn. I question the ability to play Ginn here. 67 on DraftKings. Maybe a few darts out of the bargain bin, but it's probably not a great day. 8,000 on FanDuel, I just don't think you do it. Last game up. Gun's here. What's going on, Gun? Michael Nack says, Gundecker's great. My only problem is it takes too long. And you watch this show? Gun says, yeah, I'm not polished. I just go live and research out loud. Definitely can see it being hard to have time for it. It's kind of what we do here too. Michael, Larry C chimes in and says, Michael, the key, start 15 minutes in and watch at 1.25 speed. I don't get with Terry too at times. Yeah, I know I go long. Gun's the same way. Gun says, I listen to Terry on 0.5 speed. Whoa. You got a dart in your neck. When you catch up and it goes from fast talking to regular talking, Terry, that must be what a stroke feels like. I do try and get us through at least with what I can control. The bouncing around, the random formation of thoughts and talking it through, I can't control at all. But the speed at which I say those things, I can control a little bit. Diamondbacks 4.69 implied total. Dodgers 5.42. Love the upside for offense in both of these. The Dodgers are just the Dodgers. Brandon Pfaadt is a good pitcher. 20.4% strikeouts against 6% walks so far this season. The home runs have gotten him a little bit, 3.70, with both hard hits and exit velo being way over the threshold, a 10+% barrel rate. Not ideal. That's the downside with Pfaadt. When he gets nailed, that's typically why. The strikeouts are down a little bit, but a solid double-digit swinging strike rate. CSW is down further than you'd want it, but a 3.73 ERA, a 3.87 xFIP. He's serviceable. I do think at 87, 9,000 across 150 lineups, you probably have a few shares, even with it being the Dodgers on the other side. But it's not a great spot. And there are comparably priced pitchers with probably better safety net and a little bit of ceiling. Landon Knack, I just don't think we go to. 24.4% strikeouts, all right, good. I'm very happy for him. 5.89 ERA, but a 3.74 xFIP. You got to at least point that out. But he's walking just under 10%. A 1.53 whip, monster premium contact against. In 4 starts in 18 and a third, small sample, of course, but 11.1% barrels, 53.7% hard hits, 93 miles an hour of exit velo, a full 3 miles an hour over our threshold for exit velo. He's lucky to be at 3.66% home runs, and last year that was 4.90 in 12 starts in 69 innings. 43.9% hard hits, 90.6 miles an hour of exit velo, plenty of barrels, 21.1 degree average launch. The launch has come down a little bit so far this year. This is a monster home run target, and look what he does to the home run numbers on the other side. Love, love, love the Diamondbacks today. Told you all the way at the beginning of the show that the home run pick of the day is coming from the Diamondbacks. It's Mr. not Josh Neller, Eugenio Suarez. Couldn't avoid it. Love the guy. When we talk about home run hunting, this is one of our prime hunters. This is the guy who goes out and goes into the jungle and comes back a year later after everybody's thought he's dead and just comes carrying in with enough to feed the entire village and then just walks back into the jungle because he's just that much of a hunter when we're talking about home runs. Kind of lost the thread there. 14 on the season, 299 ISO, a 381 xWOBA, 17.1% barrels, 53.7% hard hits. Dude just helps us eat. Love the upside for fantasy today. 14.17, one of the highest marks in the home run model. Home run pick of the day. Corbin Carroll, 14.10. Ketel Marte, 11.76. Josh Naylor, 12.42. You got 4 guys well above the 10 mark in the home run model. You've got Pavin Smith at 9.24. You've got Lourdes Gurriel at 8.25 despite his struggles this year. He's at least hit 7 home runs. He's carrying a 202 ISO. Not making killer contact, but the barrels are up somewhat, more normalized toward 2 years ago. Doesn't really strike out. You're getting good frequency of bat on ball. I don't mind Lourdes Gurriel in the 3 spot. This is a 9-man lineup, too. We've talked a bunch about Gabriel Moreno and his quality just for getting on base, creating opportunities. And he can hit the ball better than he has this year. 265, 333, 342. Not a bad slash line, but just a .077 ISO. 324 xWOBA tells us a little bit of that should come back. He's lost a little bit in terms of barrels in the small sample, but the hard hits have actually gone up. So it's been interesting mixed results, but he's been appreciably low strikeout like always. The walks are down a little bit with strikeouts slightly up year over year. It looks more like 2 years ago, but a really interesting catcher option for just 3,200 against Landon Knack. I love the upside for Moreno there. Alec Thomas is always a playable part. He gives you a little bit of hit tool, a little bit of speed. Every now and again, he can turn on one from the left side. 7.3% barrels, 42.7% hard hits. Not nothing. And then you get Jordan Lawler if he's in the lineup. He may or may not be. He's been in for 9 plate appearances and he's done nothing so far, but he's a high-level prospect. 2,200, 2,400, cheap. He's not exactly min price, but that is a functionally cheap price if he's in the lineup. It's very likely going to be, what's the face, Geraldo Perdomo, who is another good option in their lineup. It's just he comes in at a much different price. $43.38 across sites. FanDuel's got him way up the ladder. 43 on DraftKings is at least affordable. The FanDuel price is a little silly. Excellent for on-base run creation opportunity as a wraparound guy. not a bad option to lead back off ahead of Carol Marte and your power core up there. Pavin Smith at just 4,000 despite a 14.9% barrel, 44.6% hard hits despite 299, 423, 504 over 142 plate appearances now. He's just been good. 205 ISO at 349 XWOB, a 159 WRC plus. What more do we need to get Pavin Smith's price up a little bit? This is like getting into Mark Vientos from last year kind of territory. Fewer home runs maybe, but he's been excellent. Suarez is cheap for the power upside. Josh Naylor at 45.31 is cheap against this pitcher. 302, 371, 459 from Naylor so far this year. A 350 xWOBA, 5 home runs, 8 stolen bases from Josh Naylor. Creating runs 30% better than average. Monster. 12.3% strikeouts. Look at the low strikeout numbers from all their key hitters. Love the upside for the Diamondbacks. Couple of them, a little bit high owned around the obvious guys, but everybody through like Naylor, Suarez, everybody else, low owned. Easy opportunity. On the Dodgers side, as usual, superstar, superstar, superstar. Love Max Muncy if he's cleaning up. 3,500, 2,900. He had a couple home runs. He's up to 3. 210, 327, 343. The 334 xWOBA continues to be encouraging. 10.1% barrels, 48.5% hard hits. We're not far off the mark from last year. We're a little bit down in terms of the barrels from 2 years ago. Strikeouts right around where they've been, 26 and change. 14% walks, close enough. We're really, really not far off the mark with Max Muncy, and he's very cheap for what he does. 9.95 in the home run model. Call it a 10. Love the upside, the ability to just average down those prices to 55 at least. It's still very high. And then go, let's say the hot rookie, Dalton Rushing at catcher for 29. Now I'm at 5,000 apiece for a 5-man from the Dodgers when they're carrying a 5.42, the highest total of the day against a homer-prone pitcher. In a stack that includes Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. I can see the upside. As we've discussed a bunch of times recently, your most common Dodger stacks on DK as a 5-man are not going to be able to include all 3 of those guys unless they get really cheap at pitcher, unless you get creative with the combinations. So I think there's a lot of utility in doing that rather than just like a lot of optimizers would build with 2 of those and then more of the cheap prices and access some bigger arms. So if you get all 3 of those guys and then like use 2 of those guys to average down and then still get a compromise second stack or pitcher as far as price goes, I think there's power in that just with the ability to put all 3 of those guys together. Not that nobody's going to do that. Obviously, it's the most appealing thing you could possibly put together, but it's difficult. So I think given that it's difficult, it's worth exploring. If you're a hand builder and you're determined to use Dodgers, I think that's really worth clicking around and just seeing how to fit it together. Because you do have a lot of quality down here. Dalton Rushing at 29-24. Over his 11 plate appearances, has been very good so far. One of the highest profile catching prospects in baseball. Really interesting hitter. Tommy Edman at 41-35. Has cooled 243, 286, 504 now. The power from the beginning of the season lingers in the 261 ISO. He's hit 8 home runs. Went on a monster tear since joining the Dodgers. He's at worst playable. Second base and outfield eligible for 4,100. Helps average down those prices. Andy Pajes at 44. Puts good bat on ball. 280, 333, 494. He's got 9 home runs on the board at 213 ISO. Conforto, 9.7% barrels, 46.2% hard hits against the homer-prone righty. Could hit further up in the lineup as well. He could easily hit 6th where Andy Pajes is. He could hit 5th where Tommy Edman is, honestly. He's only slashing 171, 305, 279. Just 2 home runs on the board. Just a 107 ISO. But the contact has been there. 9.7% barrels, 46.2% hard hits. That looks just like what it was last year. Higher than it was 2 years ago. What's abandoned to him is his previous ability to get on base, to hit for a little bit of an average, to come up with any kind of consistency whatsoever. But that's why he's 3,000. That's why he's 2,600. Definitely an interesting piece down lineup. Hee-Sung Kim, an interesting option. 33 pretty good plate appearances so far in the show. 452, 485, 581, a home run, 3 stolen bases. The skill set's translated pretty well so far. I expect those numbers will cool. I don't think he continues to create runs 103% better than average. I don't know who's screaming outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that. The window in the other room's open and Sounded like a kid just outside screaming at the top of their lungs. So Kim is at worst playable. Let's see, he went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. That gets me down under 5,000. Technically, it's 5,000 because you got to round up, but 49.40 a piece. You shave a tiny amount off of it by going like that. Still the same, 49.20, but it's an interesting, deep Dodgers lineup. They're super obvious. Everybody's going to want them. Everybody's going to want the guys up at the top. Ohtani's hit 16 home runs. He's stolen 10 bases, a 352 ISO. He is just an absolute monster. 22.7% barrels, 65.9% hard hits. Mookie's been the concerning one up there. I'm not actually concerned, but like just numbers wise, it hasn't been great. Still creating runs 15% better than average. The underlying 330 XWOB was perfectly fine. 257, 347, 407, 6 home runs, 5 steals. Those numbers are all okay. Not striking out, drawing his walks right in line with where he's supposed to be. He's lost some barrels, lost some hard hits along the way, though. I think there are some lingering effects from that illness that he had early in the season. But he's still been fine. Still easily worth paying for. Correlated scoring at worst. If you're talking about Mookie Betts as your correlated scoring guy, Freddie Freeman's been tremendous. Every bit worth the money. 371, 430, 667. Monster bounce back from Freddie. Not that he had far to bounce back from, but he had a slight decline as we've looked at in the numbers last year, 282, 378, 476. That's a monster season from anybody, but it was down from 331, 410, 567 the year before. Nice to see Freddie back in that territory. Dodgers bats just because you gotta, but the Diamondbacks to me are like right there with him. Really like that option. It's honestly probably neither pitcher, but if you have to take one, it's Brandon Pfaadt, and it's pretty much on. Well, honestly, if you're taking him over here, you can take him over here too. It's the same, but it's in no way safe. Know that you're getting into trouble there, and that's it. That is our slate, top to bottom, inside and out. That's your pitching board. Tango said, sorry, I got excited for the stream and I had to scream. That was you outside? Walking down the street. You sound like Tango. I didn't realize that you were a 9-year-old girl, but hey, DFS welcomes all comers. Adam Lee says rushing hits the snot out of the ball. Good home run, long shot. Yeah, it's not a bad call. I wouldn't disagree with throwing if you were taking a just long shot kind of approach. Michael Knack says, Knack is not my Sharona tonight. Think the D-backs hammer him. Totally agree. Love it, buddy. Andy Pajes seems to never let Michael Knack down. So, really interesting slate. Given that our top projected pitcher is pitching at Coors Field, given that Sonny Gray is pitching against the Tigers, who are showing me a ton of upside. Luis Castillo's been really shaky, but gets the White Sox at a great FanDuel price. Chris Bubich and Robbie Ray dueling against one another at very high prices. And then we get to Bailey Ober, Brandon Pfaadt against the Dodgers. In a lot of ways, there are quality arms on this slate, but there's really no safe spot. Right? Gun to your head option. I don't love saying that it's definitely going to be Chris Sanchez because it's Coors Field. I love him at price on DraftKings. Same with Castillo on FanDuel. But neither is safe. Gray's not safe. Bubich and Ray, neither is safe. Ray is less safe. And it gets ugly real quick. I think Soriano's interesting at the DraftKings price. I might throw a dart or two at the FanDuel price, but don't love it over there. Pepio from the middle of the board, especially given the lack of tangible depth, I think gets more interesting at that 78 on DraftKings. But you could probably talk me into more Soriano at 73 just for the opponent. Although the ballpark works against Soriano. That's a tough call. I don't like Dean Kramer at all. Colton Gordon is difficult to envision success, but he's very, very cheap, which might just be the reason. Just go to it as the Apple box kind of play. Knack, no. Jin, no. Allen, no. Montero, Priester, Martin, Freeland. A couple of those guys working behind openers. Ugly board. Ohtani dominating the top of the board. It's Shohei Ohtani. Can't really argue with it, but look at those Arizona guys. Again, I like that stack. I think it's a really interesting spot for the D-backs. Hope they go a little bit under the radar. Schwarbs, Bobby Witt, a lot of familiar names up at the top, of course. But it's a good home run board. Bunch of guys above the 10 spot, and then a big number of guys, 8.5 plus. It's a lot of guys right in range of the home run model. I think it's really interesting. One last mention of what game is that? If I can forget who they're playing. Is it this one? Nope. This one. Mr. McCusker hiding there at the dead min. If you are just, man, I built a lineup I love and I've only got exactly 2,000 left and I don't want to play Will Brennan or any of the other garbage. Carson McCusker against Logan Allen is kind of interesting if he's in the lineup. Is he? We have to have this lineup by now. We do. He's hitting 7th. Love it. Love it at the min. We'll go up slightly. Kids just got monster power. So at the dead min price, this is probably going to be the opportunity to get him super cheap when nobody knows who he is. Just as a one-off hitter. Not that we're chasing too many twin stacks, although, again, I do think they're a little bit underrated in that Vegas number going up against this pitcher. You do have weather in this game, so be aware of that. But that kid is a potential incredible Hulk at 2,000 for today. So keep that in mind. With that in mind, you guys, I'm going to punch out of here. Been 2.5 hours. Longer show than I intended. We started early, but we ended late. Love it. I am going to check out of here. I'm going to get the site updated. Most of the lineups are in and confirmed, so we'll get that up, and we'll be on top of everything changing throughout the run-up to lock. No NBA tonight. No NHL tonight. Back with those tomorrow for the playoff slates. Let's go Knicks. And that's it. What a letdown for Maple Leafs fans. Losing to the defending champion Florida Panthers. Just such an ugly Game 7 last night. I was looking forward to that game. I fired that game up on TV. I thought we were going to see a real good one. I was thinking like OT, real fun, classic NHL Game 7. Total stinker. Total letdown. Long-suffering Maple Leafs fans. Poor guys. Anyway, good luck out there tonight, gang. Somebody go win something. Share the results when you do. Check out rotoscouts.com. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. We will see you tomorrow for more. Later.